We have modified the packet since transmittal for clarification to the public. We removed the non-adopted, so not going in the comprehensive plan at all, simply supplemental information from the packet to avoid any confusion about what specifically is being adopted into the comprehensive plan. The purpose of this amendment, this serves as the 10-year water supply facilities work plan update. And the two items that are modified, as noted in your packets, first, a replacement of the existing 10-year water supply facilities work plan table. That is in the potable water section, so there's a complete strike through of the existing table and a replacement with the new table. We also have some edits and updates to the water-related language in the potable water and infrastructure sections of the plan. This language was added to create some language around coordinated and collaborative water resources planning and holistic planning for water resources. In terms of a consistency review, the proposed amendment is consistent with both governmental policies and potable water policies related to the regional water supply plan. It's also consistent with alternative water supply and conservation, objective 1.26 in the environmental section, as well as potable water objective 1.2 about meeting future water demands. These are just a sample of the objectives and policies that were relied upon for consistency. The full list is available in your packet. We did provide this amendment to state, local, and regional agencies, including the Southwest Florida Water Management District and Tampa Bay Water. We received no objections from reviewing agencies, no objections from DEO, and we did receive comments from the three agencies noted here: EPC, the Transportation Planning Organization, and the City of Tampa. And for a recommendation, Planning Commission recommends the proposed text amendment TACPA 21-27 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And this concludes my formal presentation this evening. Again, this is an adoption hearing. I'm available if there are any questions.
Any questions for staff?
I have one.
I'm sorry?
I have
Councilman
one.
Carlson, you there?
Yeah, as I read I just looked at the document to make sure I'd read the correct one, but in the chart at the end, it specifically says pure. It doesn't say potable water sources, it says pure. Am I reading the correct version of it?
Are you talking about in the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the table is consistent with what was approved within the capital improvements element, or excuse me, the capital improvements program. So whatever were approved projects within the CIP, it is consistent with the numbers in the projects in those in that document.
Yeah, I would just say, and this is not directed at the Planning Commission, but to my colleagues, the water department's trying to kill the community with 1,000 paper cuts on this pure issue. We don't need it. Every bit of legal advice and legislative advice I've gotten is that we have an exception already if we applied for it. The staff doesn't want to apply. They want to waste money. We heard this morning how the public is tired of water rate increases and tax increases, and they don't want their water rates doubled so they can drink potty water. I think it's offensive that the staff, not the Planning Commission, but the Water Department staff would bring this back to us. They need to jettison this project. If the city staff and the mayor care about the community, they would get rid of this project because the community doesn't want it. They don't want to pay for it. We don't need it. When it finally comes out, instead of getting it in bits and pieces, when it finally comes out in a big way and it gets covered by the media, it's going to be too late to stop it. But everybody who voted on it is going to get blamed by the community for voting on something the community didn't want. The community is not aware that this is happening. They're not aware that this thing is moving forward and inch by inch, but we need to stop it wherever we can. And so I'm definitely going to vote against this. I vote against anything that has pure in it, and call people in Tallahassee and ask them what they think about this. It's a ridiculous waste of money, and we need to find out who's behind it and why the water department keeps pushing it. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me just say that when you look at this thing and you understand that we have a contract with our citizens to give the best water at the best price. So I will challenge any person, including the elected officials, to to look at the water rates of the city of Tampa compared to St. Pete, Clearwater, anyone in this area, and you tell me which is the lowest water. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but I think if I make that statement, I think you understand which one it is. So I challenge anyone on the water issues and the cost of water and the participation that we have with other communities. And this is not numbered, but if you go to page 6, which is the top left-hand side says Hillsborough County Planning Commission resolution to the city of Tampa, TACAP 2127. And you look to the opposite side, maintain well water sources permitted by the Southwest Water Management District and provided tested water to provide a minimum gross daily capacity of 125 gallons, that's the annual average. Additional capacity, city withdrawal permit to meet all levels of services available through the Tampa Bay Water as specifically an existing interlocal agreement of 1998. What does it mean? That means that we have the right to buy water from Tampa Bay Water if there was a need to buy water, and sometimes during the current years, there's always been a need to buy water. And we buy water and we sell water. We buy water from Tampa Bay Water, and at times they buy water from us. So there's a point in place that for the survivability of this whole area. This area is growing, this area continues to grow, and we have a permit of 82 million gallons a day daily average. What does that mean? That means that some days you can produce more than 82 million gallons a day. However, at the conjunction of the year, you cannot average more than 82 million gallons a day water usage or produced. The usage you can go over, but the production of the David Tippin plant cannot go over 82 million gallons a day. And that's a contract that we have with Southwest Water Management, and that goes all the way up to the state of Florida. Everything here is reviewed by different agencies, not by I or anyone else. It's reviewed by the agencies, just like your Planning Commission reviewed it. I'm sure you all went all the way up and did your due diligence in this. So I will be voting in favor of it.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
While I do understand that, I also am very concerned about the Pure, not because I haven't had enough time to truly study the project from a council member's perspective, but from a neighbor perspective, and what my neighbors and my constituents are telling me is that they're concerned about this. So I'm happy to revisit it later when we're actually talking about Pure, but to have this here, it is just a no-go for me. Like, I can't vote for it. And I'm happy that if it's something that we decide to do later, to add it back on, but it's just not gonna happen for me. In talking about how much water we're allowed to pull out, I'm also concerned that I mean, I know we do some education, but we have to stop people from using that potable water on their lawns. We have to do something about that, and I'm not seeing anything that we're doing regarding that in this work plan.
Is there any other comments or questions from council to staff? Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to agenda item number 1, TACPA 21-27? Seeing none, we have Ms. Jean Strohmeyer on the line.
She is not logged on.
She is not logged on.
No.
Move to close.
Councilman Goode.
You know, since 2019, we've been talking about the Pure project, toward the TAP project, and it's controversial. And I don't think it has been settled. I think we've got studies out now that are going on. So I can see Mr. Miranda's point of knowing what we're doing, but also Mr. Carlson's point of right now, if we're at a stage to where we're got controversy about the Pure project, why is it in this document right now? So I guess that's what my confusion is of why it's there versus if we're not set in stone to do this project, why is it in this document today?
May I respond
Please.
to that? Yeah. So these projects were provided to us by the city of Tampa, and My understanding is that these projects and the funding is consistent with what is in the CIP, so what is in the capital improvement program. So I wanted everyone to know the source of those projects. That the state statute does provide guidance that we should provide all types of water projects for the next 10 years within this particular work plan table. And so a wide variety of water projects are included in that table.
Councilwoman
If
Hurtak.
me-
Are there any education projects about reducing water use for things like lawns in this?
I am looking right now.
Because.
Ma'am, I'm looking, I don't see any specific education projects. You know, this list is not necessarily completely exhaustive. There may be other education projects that are not specifically reflected in here that may be in other city programs or city documents. This is the document for the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Mr. Shelby, I'm sorry.
And if my understanding is, the source of this is the adopted CIP.
Yes, sir.
So in other words, council actually voted on this when they adopted the budget and the capital improvement plan.
That's my
This,
understanding.
this work plan.
The projects within
The
this
project
work plan.
table?
Yes, not this specific project table, but the projects and the funding amounts.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Mr. Chair,
Go on, let Mr. Vieira speak.
Mr. Vieira.
Not spoken yet.
yes, sir, thank you very much. You know, in looking at this, let me ask staff this. I mean, I think the answer is no, but is there any sort of immediate urgency for passing this where a 1 week delay, you know, to be further briefed on it would somehow prejudice the involved parties? Because I want to make sure that I have all the information before me before I go one way or the other and whatnot. And just, I personally, I didn't anticipate this. And I just want to make sure that I have all the information. That's all, just, you know.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I completely heard the full question for staff. I apologize.
Yes, does a continuance of 1 week in any way prejudice any of the involved parties?
I mean, I think from planning commission perspective, a 1 week extension would be acceptable. We are under a deadline to get this adopted by the state, so, you know, we want to make sure that we do move this forward, and I think Jennifer Malone may have something to add.
Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission. We'll take the, you know, we're very gracious, and that's great, the 1 week extension. We're just gonna have to send a letter to the Department of Economic Opportunity to let them know that we're still working on this item with the state, because there's a legally mandated timeline that this has to get adopted. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
If I may, that's fine with, 1 week is fine with me also, but just to say that Mr. Chuck Gardner, the general manager of Tampa Bay Water, I believe is due to address council either on the 2nd of June or the 9th of June. I'm not certain which week, but he would have that. And the reason, 10 years in any water project, in any city, in any district, in any part of the districts, it's a short period of time because it takes an enormous amount of time to get all the permits, the construction money and everything else to do something. So I'm just saying that when you see the report from Tampa Bay Water, what they're doing, they got a 10, 20 and beyond. So you have to be prepared, especially for the population influx that we're having, not only in Tampa, but throughout the state of Florida. And I'm not opposed to a 1 week. I can't speak for anyone else.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I'm not opposed, I just simply don't see that if Pure is not off, if it's still on, I'm still a no.
Mr. Chair?
Is that Councilman Carlson?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and don't forget, I won't be here next week, so we'll be voting without me, which the water department may like, but if we could put it out for a couple weeks. First of all, we passed a motion 6 months or a year ago to request that staff not put an agenda item before us unless the summary said pure in it. And I was just looking at the summary of this, and it says potable water reuse, but it doesn't say pure. And I think that's misleading, and it doesn't follow city council guidelines. So I would say, first of all, from my point of view, it wasn't noticed correctly. And that's not the planning commission's fault, but whoever gave this to the clerk, they should have made sure that we knew that. And if we accidentally, I don't know how the vote was on that CIP, but if we accidentally voted for that and it wasn't on the agenda and it slid it in like this is slid in at the very end, this is like almost the last line in this document. We should be worried. The public should be worried about this. We know there have been transparency issues in the water department. Ms. Hertak was at her neighborhood association meeting with the head of the water department, got up and laughed when asked if this project would cost several $1 billion. And we know from their own consultants that it will. But then they sent a scathing email to me saying that you should know, and we've informed you that the standard practice in the industry is to only mention capital costs, not total costs over 30 years. Well, first of all, that's not accurate. I've talked to a lot of engineers. It's very misleading. And we need to be honest and open with the public about this project. There's a lot of problems with it. I won't go through here, but we could easily ask the state for an exception based on what we're doing already. The head of sustainability said that the water, although it has impurities in it, is cleaner than the water coming from the Hillsborough River. So we should apply for an exception. The people on the committee and the state have told me unofficially that meets the guidelines of an exception, and that buys us more time. The issue with this is how they're doing it, how they're going about it. They're doing it in secret. They're not communicating with the public effectively. They're not even communicating honestly with city council. And when asked a year or so ago, when I asked what's the setting aside price, what's the safest, best method to treat this, the consultant said not reverse osmosis. Yet Sierra Club and others show that 9 out of 10 of these use reverse osmosis. We've got a reverse osmosis plant that happens to be owned by Tampa Bay Water. We could easily pipe the water down there, sell it to them, let them do it. But it's not about Tampa Bay Water versus the city of Tampa. It's about why should our ratepayers be saddled with several $1 billion in costs and potentially double their rates. And yes, the rates are low as they presented to us 3 years ago. They're one of the lowest in the state, but that doesn't mean anything to the people that were there this morning complaining that their costs keep going up and up. And even if we only raise it $40 a month, that's still a lot of money for some people. It might mean the difference between medicine and no medicine. And especially for something we don't need. And this is the problem. If you look 20 years if you look 50 years or 100 years in the future, the city of Tampa is not going to need 50 million gallons a day in water. To spend that money now for something we don't need in 100 years, why should we burden the next 4 generations of Tempeños because somebody in the water department wants a project now and they just want it for whatever reason? It's not just because they want it is not an acceptable reason to saddle our residents with this. And if your kids are like mine and they find out that they're drinking potty water, they're going to drink bottled water. And guess how much pollution that's going to cause? It's not a good solution. It's not a sustainable solution. And maybe I didn't mention this, but if you look closely at the documents, the engineering firm that was hired to do this, they're experimenting on a new procedure to serve the city of Tampa. Why are we paying for their R&D? Instead, if we're going to do this, we should use the tried and true methods that 9 out of 10 cities use on it. And we should be safe and not experimental with high costs for our residents. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. To the staff, because obviously we want all council members here, including Councilman Carlson, who's obviously very passionate about this, and we respect that. I respect that. Would 2 weeks be okay?
Yeah, that would be fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. We have a motion made by Councilman Goose for a 2-week extension on this.
Sorry. What? An evening meeting? June, well, 2 weeks would be,
It would be a regular session.
it would be June 9th? Mr. Carlson, would you, yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Mr. Carlson, June 9th, are you here in June 9th?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Vieira, for proposing this.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Goose.
Director Mr. Shelby, since this is a kind of a hot topic item and obviously city staff is not here on the planning commission, I would ask that city staff be here on that night with the planning commission. If that would be appropriate.
Would you like that included in the motion then?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
I'm sorry, the date and time again, please? At,
5:01 PM.
Can we make that number one on the agenda?
Make it number 1 on the agenda, yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goose,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes,
Motion carried unanimously.
thank you. Agenda item number 2, TA CPA 22-05.
Jennifer Malone again with your planning commission. This is a map amendment for Jackson Heights Cemetery. This is part of that parks project where we're trying to take every park on the city's dedicated park list and convert it to a recreational open space future land use. So nothing is changing with the cemetery. It's just on the city of Tampa's dedicated park list and it needs the appropriate land use. So it is located, again, that's the background. Each park is on that dedicated park list and this was city council initiated back in 2019. This is in the Central Tampa Planning District in the East Tampa Urban Village as well as the Jackson Heights neighborhood. Here it is outlined in purple. It's just south of Lindell, north of East Lake. I have some site pictures for you. And then here's the adopted future land use map. It's under the public, semi-public future land use right now. And again, this would just convert it to the recreational open space to be consistent with a lot of the other parks in the city through this work that we're doing to update the map to be consistent with the dedicated park list. It's not changing any of the entitlements because public, semi-public has no limit in density or intensity, and then in recreational open space, it is not applicable. And it is part of this multi-year process, again, provides additional long-term protections recognizing these facilities. So the Planning Commission found this consistent. That is a recommendation I have before you today, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Is there anyone in the public for public comment to item agenda 2, TA CPA 22-05?
Move to close?
There's no registered speakers for this item.
Motion's been made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco for close. All in favor say aye.
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 Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element, Future Land Use Map for the property located at 3600 East Lake Avenue, otherwise known as Jackson Heights Cemetery, from public, semi-public P/SP to recreation open space R/OS, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Is it accurate? Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goose,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 3, file number TA CPA 22-04.
Jennifer Malone again with your Planning Commission. These are publicly initiated policies by the Tampa City Council to add some cemetery language to our comprehensive plan. This is a transmittal hearing, so this is just transmitting this to the Department of Economic Opportunity. It'll be back before you for adoption later this year. So again, a reminder, at your February 3rd regular meeting, you approved a motion to initiate a plan amendment after this Planning Commission brought you all some research back about cemeteries. An overview, this is going to add 2 new definitions to the comprehensive plan. We have 13 new or modified goals, objectives, and policies. We're adding cemeteries to the description of public, semi-public uses, as well as recreational open space designations. It's defining cemeteries and unmarked human burial. It's also protecting Tampa cemeteries and promoting their preservation and encouraging privately owned cemeteries to be designated in appropriate future land use. It is consistent with our comprehensive plan policies, looking at the area's cultural values and placing a high priority on acquiring and preserving open space. And there's another consistency policy about no parkland shall be diverted to other uses except in instances of overriding public interest. The Planning Commission found it consistent. I also just want to point out we worked very closely with city staff on this language. I know Frank Hall is here right now, so this was done in collaboration with City Planning Department and city staff. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Is there anyone for public comment?
No one is registered for this item.
Second.
Motion moved to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye. Move to transmit. Second.
I was going to get to that, Mr. Shelby, as soon as the vote was approved. We have a motion for transmittal by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Excuse me. Roll call.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Yes. Vieira,
Yes.
Booth,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
and Citro.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Chair, could I just say one thing?
Councilman Carlson.
Thank you. Just thank you to all the staff and everyone and whoever proposed this. Just a really important thing to move forward. It seems like a quick decision, but considering all the issues regarding cemeteries and how they were used or misused, this is a really important thing to have passed. So thanks, everybody.
Item number 4, file number TA CPA 22-07.
Jennifer Malonian, this is text amendment 2207. This is another publicly initiated text amendment by the City Council. This is the same intent as TACPA 2111, which removed the ability to utilize floor area ratio for single-use residential development in the South Tampa and New Tampa planning districts in certain future land use categories. That was community mixed use 35, community commercial 35, and urban mixed use 60. That text amendment was initiated by this council based on concerns from the community. The council then earlier this year asked that we kind of expand upon that text amendment to include the regional mixed use 100. So we had to start a whole new amendment because it's difficult to change language when you're too far into the process. So again, this removes the allowance for single-use residential structures to apply the floor area ratio to determine maximum development potential in the new and South Tampa planning district. Here's a map of the regional mixed use 100 by planning district. So this is our very high intensity future land use category. It's Channel District, it's West Shore. In the South Tampa planning district, the neighborhood that's kind of affected by this is circled in the yellow. It's essentially the Beach Park neighborhood. So that, I think I have a letter in the packet, that is the neighborhood that came before this council and asked that this was included. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We're hoping that it's finding consistency with preserving neighborhood character and providing that design sensitivity to the neighborhood. It's also going to provide growth in this area of the city while incentivizing mixed-use development, which is encouraged by the comprehensive plan. So as I said before, this is for single-use residential development. A developer would still be able to use the floor area ratio to determine the maximum development potential if they do a vertically integrated development. And with that, the Planning Commission found this consistent. And again, this is a transmittal hearing, so I'll be back before you for adoption, and I'm available for any questions.
Is there any any comments or questions to staff? Anyone to speak on item number 4, TACPA 2207 from the audience? Ms. Strohmeyer, are you on the line?
She's not.
Second.
Second.
Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye. Second.
Move for transmittal by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call.
Goods,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Thank you.
And Cedro.
I'm sorry. Roll call vote? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm preparing my next speech. Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, Councilman Vieira is going to be leaving us at 6 o'clock. We have an agenda item that there is going to be a lot of public comment. And I want to make sure that Councilman Vieira is here for that. Not only to hear public comment, but if this is going to be voted on, you need 4 affirmative to either approve or deny. With Councilman Vieira gone, we may have a 3-3 tie. So I hope you understand when I say that we're going to hear agenda item number 7 next.
And Mr. Chair, may I?
Mr. Councilman Vieira.
Thank you. And to the public, I'm at, as you can tell, but it's bare behind me. I'm at Pepin Center. I was asked to speak for the graduation of Pepin Academies, which should probably take me 15 minutes. They're going to pull me out of this room and then pull me right back. So just let the public know why I'm out here, so to speak, today. And thank you, everybody, for your accommodation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And again, I am going to state that agenda item number 6 cannot be heard. It was misnoticed.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. Roll call vote.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
and Cedro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Item agenda number 7, file number REZ 21-131. Mr. Hussein.
Thank you so much. Can I please be sworn in with the rest of my staff?
I'm sorry. Would everyone that is going to be giving testimony tonight, and I'm sure that's just about everyone in this room, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Zane. Thank you so much, Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 7, case REZ 21-131. This is being heard for first reading consideration at the location 1715 West Powhatan Avenue. Proposed rezoning from RS 60 residential single family to RS 50 residential single family.
No, it's not right.
Oh, I'm sorry, number 7, sorry. Let's go back. Agenda item number 7, case REZ 21-131. This being heard for first reading consideration at the location 5406 North Pershing Place. A proposed rezoning from RS 50 residential single family to PD planned development residential single family detached. Now I'll pass it along to our planning commission.
Jennifer Malone. This is located in the University Planning District. It's a level C evacuation zone. River Shore Drive Park is approximately 1 block to the north of the site. That's the closest public recreational facility. There's a transit stop about 430 feet to the southeast of the subject site at the intersection of North Lee Place and West Hillsborough Avenue. Just gonna zoom out. Hopefully I don't, okay, there we go. So this is just located just north of West Hillsborough Avenue. It's south of the river along North Pershing Place. The future land use of the subject site is residential 10. We're very close to West Hillsborough Avenue, so it's immediately adjacent to this pink color. These are the community mixed use 35, which allows commercial uses. So we see how close this lot is to those the lands designated with the allowance of commercial uses, and we see that all along West Hillsborough Avenue. The orange is residential 10, so that's the predominant future land use designation in the neighborhood. So we've reviewed the application, and the Planning Commission staff found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. We did find that the average density of the street is a 5.73 dwelling units per acre. So that's approximately 57% of the allowable density planned for under the residential 10 future land use designation. So the request proposes those 2 single-family units at an overall density of 7.3 units per acre. So the proposed density is consistent with what we're trying to achieve under the residential 10 future land use category that really calls for 10 dwelling units an acre, if at all possible. So the Again, the comprehensive plan supports this policy direction, and the plan's housing policies, which encourage new housing on vacant or underutilized land to ensure that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs and preferences of Tampa's present and future population. So the proposed rezoning supports the plan. It would not alter the character or development pattern of this portion of the Riverbend neighborhood. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be here for questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Petitioner.
Thanks so much. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. Case REZ 21-131, the location 5406 North Pershing Place. Proposed rezoning from RS50 residential single family 50 to PD planned development. This to allow for the property to have 2 residential single family detached houses. I've shared the overhead aerial. As you can see, the property, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see the property right here outlined in red. There are 2 lots, Lot 2 and Lot 3, for approximate 0.28 acres or 12,000 square feet total in size. To the north, a little bit to the north, to the south, east, and the west, you'll find residential single-family homes. Also to the south, you'll find properties zoned CG, which is an office space, as I'll show you in the pictures to come. I will now turn and show you the site plans. As you can see, the 2 proposed structures on site. The proposed structures have a maximum height of 27 feet in height, with setbacks at 7 feet to the north, 7 feet to the south, 20 feet to the east, and 43 feet to the west. Parking, there's required to have 2 public parking spaces, and 4 are being provided. All access to the site is from North Pershing Place to the east. I'll now go ahead and share the proposed elevations. As you can see, the elevation to the east. There you go. As you can see, the proposed elevations to the east, north, west, and south. As I went out to the site, took pictures. I will show you what the current site looks like. As you see, residential structure on the site as is. Adjacent to the site to the south, you'll see the commercial office that we talked about. Across the street to the east, you'll see that residential single-family home. And down the street to the north, you also see residential single-family homes. Development Coordination has found this project to be consistent with the code. Staff has provided a revision sheet for the applicant to provide between first and second reading if approved by council. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Mr. Chairman?
Any questions to staff?
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Goods.
Zane, put the first picture back of the residence that's currently there.
The current residence?
So show me the other 2.
The other 2 on the site plan? Zoom in a little bit for you.
That's good, Zane. Okay, I'm good with it. All right. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Petitioner.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
I'm translating for her. My name is Milady.
Please give us your name and your address.
Her, tu nombre? Milady Guevara Lorente, the address 5406 Paging Plat in Tampa, Florida 33603.
Can you both share the podium so we can hear both your voices? Mr. Shelby.
And your name, sir?
Joel Torres. I'm translating for her.
Do we have to,
So we're trying to,
swear the translator? As well?
Have you both been sworn in?
yeah, we're sworn. Yeah, we're, it's for 5406
If you
North.
can, I'm sorry, Ms. Wells.
Oh, sorry.
I don't mean to interrupt, but Kate Wells, for the record, if he's translating, then she needs to testify and he needs to translate rather than testifying on her behalf.
Correct.
Mi nombre es
What?
Milady Guevara. Milady Guevara Lorente.
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, tienes que hablar más alto.
Mi nombre es Milady Guevara Lorente
Saying that her name is Milady Guevara Lorente.
y estoy aquí sobre la propiedad 5406
She's here for the property address 5406 North Pershing Place,
en el Tampa, Florida 33603.
Tampa, Florida 33604.
Okay, and why does she need this change in this property?
Dice que, ¿por qué tienes que estar haciendo la propiedad?
If you could speak,
Para a ver si nos dan el permiso para hacer dos propiedades, dos casas.
That she wants to divide the lot so she could be able to build 2 houses.
And the reason, were you going to read something off for her?
No,
Okay, and the reasoning that she needs to divide the lot. Can you both speak up, please?
speak,
oh,
so,
scoot up.
just-
Dice porque qué es la razón para su
excuse me, sir, if you could just, when you speak, just say it loud enough so that the people can hear it in Spanish, so it's also recorded in Spanish.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
La hija de la señora Rosa quiere construir una casa para su mamá y ella está más cerca al lado, otra para ellos.
So Rosa's daughter, the property owner, she wants to build a house for her daughter. They want to.
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt. But if you can, if you could speak, rather than interpret what she's saying, to translate accurately from Spanish to English and English to Spanish, if you can do that.
Also, I have to say it Spanish again. And then-
Mr. Chairman,
No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
question for Mr. Shelby. Do the city, do we provide interpreters for people?
If
Because,
we-
I don't want this gentleman to be here and he doesn't really,
If we do know in advance, we,
Yes, if a request is made from the city, we do provide interpreters, but if we don't receive the request, then that opportunity is not available.
We weren't aware of that.
Oh my God.
Dice que tienen que tener alguien de traducir. No, dice que
So
tienen que ellos tienen que traer.
should we have? a
Yes,
five-
please, go ahead.
Mira, no se pongan nerviosos, los dos. Vayan para adelante, relax. Caído, sí. Habla lo que dice, tú le dices en español a él lo que tú quieres y él se lo dice al concilio en inglés. Tú empiezas, él acaba en inglés. Tú se lo dices a él y él se lo dice a los otros, ¿ok? Para que todo el mundo te oiga. Muchísimas gracias.
Councilman Miranda, will you
What I
just
told
explain to
him
the
was
audience?
relax, take a deep breath, for her to say what she wants to say in Spanish, and as he gets it, he will translate to us in English.
Just for the record. Thank you, Councilman Miranda.
Sorry about that. We've never done this before. It's the first time.
La señora Rosa, que es la dueña de la propiedad, quiere hacer dos casas, su hija, una para ella y una para ellos.
The property owner, Rosa Pardo, wants to build 2 houses on the property. One for herself and one for her daughter. So that's why she wants to divide them in 2.
That's all the testimony that she wants to give.
Yeah.
Wait, she can say.
Ese testimonio que tú quieres.
Sí, van a hacer dos casas.
Yes.
Any questions from council?
Miss-
Mr. Shelby, spit it out, please.
I'm concerned that in order to have this heard properly, that perhaps it needs to be continued to have a translator present. I don't want this.
It's fine, it's fine. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak to this? Do we have anyone online?
Yes, we have Jean.
Jean Strohmeyer is online?
Yes, she is.
It would have to be translated, I would think. How would the,
¿Qué dice?
Ms. Strohmeyer, are you there?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think she'd understand what Ms. Strohmeyer is saying, so she'd be able to rebut it.
Sir, would you please translate what this woman online is going to be saying? Thank
Okay.
you. Ms.
Never mind.
Strohmeyer?
Never mind, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, never mind on this one. Never mind. So I withdraw my comments on this. Thank you. Have a great day.
Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Hurtak.
Okay, file number REZ 21-131, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 5406 North Pershing Place in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to planned development residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
Second. A motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let him explain to her when the second reading, senor.
Ma'am?
Sir, can you explain the dates for the second reading?
For the second reading?
Yes,
Which
can you
is
please
July,
repeat the second reading time?
Do you have something to write?
second reading is July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Do you have something to write that down with, sir?
Let me tell him in Spanish. Can I tell him in Spanish?
No, in Spanish, please.
El segundo juicio es el día
Junio
14 de julio a las 9 de la mañana aquí. 9:30, a las 9:30 de la mañana aquí, ¿ok? En este mismo sitio, mismo cuarto, todo aquí. What I'm saying is that the second hearing will be held on July 14th at 9:30 in the morning, same room.
Okay, thank you.
And you told her?
And she should be present at that time.
Okay. Que tienen que estar aquí. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, question for Ms. Wells, since this was, I guess sometimes we don't know to know. Luckily, this was kind of easy for us because it could have been complicated. Is there anything on our forms or when people apply, if they need interpreters or ask the question?
There's information on the city's website. There's also information on the Good Neighbor Notice that goes out. So, I can get with staff and see if there's another way to get that information out to applicants. But similar to you, unless they tell us, we don't know, and we're not in a position to have a translator available at every evening meeting. That's just not a cost we can incur.
I understand.
July 14th.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I agree with Councilman Goots. Maybe there can be a checkbox somewhere because we also experience this a lot on the Variance Review Board.
So Eric Cotton is in the audience. I'm sure he's paying attention.
Yay, thank you.
There he is in the
Thank
back.
you.
Okay, I think he'll make note of that for us.
Now, the
Agenda item
question-
number 8.
What?
So the actual second reading date should be June 16th.
Excuse me? They're gone. Are they here?
So it should be June 16th, 2022 at 9:30
No, I
a.m.
know. Did you want to see if you, I don't think you can.
Hurry, son.
It's not going to happen.
That's
why I was wondering.
I'll send them an email tomorrow morning, so.
All right.
They'll also confirm in writing, hey, you have this day, this time.
All right, so he's gonna take care of it.
I'll take care of it for you.
So could we have that again, please? How's that?
For item REZ 21-131, second reading will be held on June 16th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. And also, we need to correct the,
I don't think that, I'm concerned about that because he wrote that date down. And that was communicated by Councilmember Miranda.
I can contact the applicant and advisor.
I mean, they can be found. I mean, they're not gonna leave the city.
And I also
No.
need to correct item number 2, which is
Oh, no.
TA/CPA 22-05. The second reading for that will be June 16, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Item number,
Number 2.
June 16th to,
Correct.
this is not,
Mr. Hussein, I
Here he
don't
is.
want to stop this next hearing in the middle if Councilman Maniscalco comes back
here he is.
with the
Mr.
petitioner so that
Maniscalco.
we can give them the right date.
I agree.
Councilman Maniscalco, did you find the petitioners?
I chased them, I got them, and I gave them right there.
Thank you.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got them.
So let's get that matter before we enter into. Ms. Michelle, we will have the right dates for the next few.
Yes, we will.
Thank you very much.
I think she's got it.
No, we're going to wait for the petitioners to come back in so they can hear the correct date.
No, you told them.
No, I got them, they're,
You told them the correct date?
Yeah,
June 16th, 9:30.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I got it.
And Zane's gonna send an email.
I'll send an email.
Mr. Hussein, please continue.
Thank you so much, sir. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 8 here, case REZ 22-25 for the location 1715 West Powhatan Avenue. Proposed rezoning from RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family. I'll now pass it along to our Planning Commission.
Jennifer Mullen with the Planning Commission. This is, as Zane stated, this is on West Powhatan Avenue. It's in the University Planning District. I have an aerial here. So we have North Rome Avenue and then West Powhatan Avenue here. So it's the University Planning District. It's in the Level D evacuation zone. The river's just to the east of the site. The closest transit stop is about a quarter mile to the southeast of the site. Wellswood Park is the closest public recreational facility. And the surrounding area is really defined by that single-family detached development pattern, which is reflected when I show the future land use map. That R10 is the orange, so that's typically single-family detached. You see it to the north, south, east, west. The lighter brown to the east, that's residential 20 along North Rome. That allows a little bit of a higher density for residential uses. The red is community commercial 35 that allows for commercial intensive uses. So Planning Commission staff reviewed this application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. This street has an existing average density of 6 units per acre. So that's about 60% of the density is utilized on this street. The rezoning will allow for better utilization of the land and is consistent with the density anticipated under residential 10 future land use. So it will not alter the character of the surrounding area and it is compatible with the surrounding development pattern. And I'll just also point out those housing goals to provide an adequate supply of housing for Tampa's growing population. This rezoning would support that. So I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Malone? Mr. Hussein?
Thanks so much, Zane Hussein. Go over case REZ 22-25, the location 1715 West Powhatan Avenue, rezoned from RS60 to RS50 is being proposed. The applicant is proposing residential single-family uses. I will show you the overhead view, the plat here. Can you see the wonderful? You'll see the two proposed lots here, lot 37 and lot 38. Also looking at the aerial view, you'll see the lot here outlined in red. Now, the lot itself is 0.28 acres. The site, as you see, is 5 lots from the intersection of West Powhatan Avenue and North Rome Avenue. To the north, west, south, and east of the site, the parcel is surrounded by RS60 residential single family. The properties are all developed in the adjacent area as single family detached uses. I'll now show the compatibility matrix. As you see the site here, outlined in black and hatched, you'll see the surrounding area. Now, staff has done their analysis by the map that was provided by our right-of-way and mapping department. Staff identified that 35% of the lots in the studied area, 70% of the subject block, 35% of the block of West Powhatan Avenue, and 72% of the block face are with widths of 59.99 feet or less. This being said, staff finds the proposed request to be consistent with the existing development pattern of the overall study and block face. Staff has found this consistent. This being Euclidean, no site plan was provided. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions for Mr. Hussein? Petitioner. The petitioner here?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'm not sworn in. I didn't know I needed to speak.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Anyone else in the room that is going to be giving any type of testimony tonight, please rise to be sworn in. Thank you.
Yes. And I wasn't aware that I needed to speak, but basically pardon me?
State your name and your address, please.
My name is Shelley Dupuy, and the address of the property is 1715 West Powhatan Avenue. And the lot, as Zane mentioned, is 0.28 acres. It was originally platted as 2 lots, and I cannot divide those 2 lots unless it's zoned RS50. It is currently zoned RS60. Each of the lots would be approximately 57.5 feet wide, which, as Zane mentioned, again, is consistent with the neighborhood. So that's what I am asking you to do.
Any questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone in chambers that would like to give testimony?
Hi, my name is Nathan Hagan. I just want to ask council to consider an ordinance that would remove these types of things from coming to council. This is a part of a general theme of council having to, against their will, micromanage development in our city. This seems like a very straightforward project that does not require to take up so much of our resources of the city, and that, you know, shouldn't be such a burden to the woman here who would like to have this done. So just adding that as my point of view.
Thank you. Any other further comments?
There are no registered speakers for this item.
Motion closed by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Councilman Goose.
File REZ 22-25. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1715 West Powhatan Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
Motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Carlson,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Viera,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 16, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Yes, and I was just going to ask that. Thank you, Councilwoman Hurtak. Councilman Vieira, you haven't been called yet.
Mr. Chair, I have not. I anticipate within 10 minutes, I'll be called.
Okay, we're gonna hear agenda item number 9. I do not know how long that's going to take, but you know, you have a comment to make there. So just letting you know.
Yes,
We're gonna proceed after that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Agenda item number 9, file number REZ 22-62.
Thanks
Mr.
so much. Zane here. Location 2408 North Himes Avenue and 3604 Beach Street and 3606 Beach Street. Proposed rezoning from RS50 residential single family to RM16 residential multifamily. I'll now pass it along to our planning commission.
Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission again. I'm still not used to being in person, so every time I get up, I have to prepare myself with paper. So this is on the south of West Beach Street. We're west of North Himes Avenue. We're actually in the West Shore Planning District. So the Southdale Mabry Highway is actually located like right over here. So these are some of the commercial uses that we start to see that transition as we're moving closer to Southdale Mabry. This is a multifamily complex to the north. This street is developed with like a mixture of housing types, but it's interfacing this large multifamily development right to the north. And then this is single family detached on the other side of South Himes. It makes that transition. So that's consistent with what we're gonna see on the future land use map. The future land use is residential 20, and that is what we're finding on the east side of Himes. I apologize, the west side of Himes. And then this is residential 10. To the north, this is residential 50. That's that multifamily development that I pointed out on the aerial. This is the regional mixed use 100 in the pink, and that's where we're starting to get that transition to that high intensity commercial to the east of the subject site. So the request before you today is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We found that there's already this zoning in the immediate area, and the residential 20 allows this and promotes this type of zoning district. It's also compatible. It's interfacing a much more intense development than what is proposed before you through this Euclidean zoning district. Again, I'll remind council about the consistency with the City of Tampa, the comprehensive plan's housing policies to provide an adequate amount of housing to serve Tampa's growing population. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Malone? Mr. Hussein.
Thanks so much. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. Go over case REZ 22-62. I will show you the aerial view of the subject site. Well, if you see the subject site here outlined in red, to the north you have an apartment complex. To the west you have residential single-family homes. To the east you also have residential single-family detached homes, and also to the south you have residential single-family detached homes. The site overall is 20,394 square feet in size. There's currently a residential single-family house on it, as I'll show you in a picture coming up. And the site is located at that southwest intersection of North Himes Avenue, running.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm being pulled away. Excuse me. I'll be back. Thank you.
Okay. Running north and south, you have North Himes and Beach Avenue running east to west. Going to the plat, as you'll see the 3 subject sites, site 1, 2, and 3, along Himes. And as I went out to the site, you'll see the current state of the site, having that residential single-family home on there with the public notice sign in the front. To the west of the site, you'll see more of those residential single-family homes running east to west. As I came out to the intersection here, you'll see Himes running north to south and Beach running east to west. More to the east here, you'll see those residential single-family detached homes. And to the north of the site, you'll see the apartment, residential multifamily apartment complex I was speaking of to the north. Staff has found this project to be consistent with the zoning code. This being Euclidean, no site plan was required. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions for Mr. Hussein? Petitioner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. Both staffs are in support. Staff report indicates there are no inconsistencies from the staff. I do have a short PowerPoint. I can hold on that if you like. See if any citizens here. We've not heard from any citizens. There's been no calls or emails of any kind that we're aware of.
It's your decision if you want to present it or not.
It's short. I'll run through it real quick, sir. We could pull that up, please. The request is from RS50 to RM16. The future land use is R20, so we're matching that category. Staffs are in support and find it consistent, as you can see from all the different departments as well. Planning Commission notes it's consistent, the density is compatible, will not alter the character. I would make one, I think it's a correction from Zane, is that to the west is zoned RM16 and is an air conditioning shop. Located on Himes, north of I-275. To the north is a very large multi-family apartment zone, the 26 units per acre. That's directly across the street. This is the existing site. These are the apartments across the street, so you can see we're going to be very compatible in that respect. This is the existing home on the site that will be raised and a new project put in. And it's a multi-family, small multi-family proposed for the site. Happy to answer any questions you might have, sir.
Any questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this? Sir, come on up.
How you doing? My name is Jason Pena. Residence is 3617 West Palmetto Street. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for your grace because I am not familiar with the hearing process, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to trip up and make some mistakes, but thank you and, in accordance. I have a couple questions because I am the residential right behind that property, and I really want some more transparency on what the plans are and what's the intentions, because obviously if they made an example of the single housing across the street, it's 2 stories. If they plan on building that in my backyard, that limits privacy. And then also, if it's kind of the same structure that is to the east of it, to be honest with you and frank, it seems like a really upkept motel. Having that in my backyard, I do have an issue with that. I understand that only one person, but I just want some more transparency on what the plans are before we rezone.
Were you contacted? Were you on the notice?
All I got was this, which is the meeting notice for this hearing.
Thank you.
Bye.
Is there anyone else in the audience?
My name is Nathan Hagan. The last speaker, I'm sure, is very nice, and I have a lot of respect for him, but I don't believe that neighbors get to say no to new housing in Tampa. It's not a veto just because you live next door. I implore the developer to be respectful to their neighbors and be a good citizen and contribute to the community. I hope this project is not vetoed because it's for the reasons that were stated by the previous speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? And we have no one online.
No, the person showed up in person.
Any rebuttal, Mr. Pressman?
If you could give me 1 second, sir. Mr. Chairman, what's proposed is a small attached townhome. And as both staffs have said, it would be compatible with the uses in the immediate area. The immediate area is primarily multifamily, as you saw from the pictures. It'll be built to code levels. RM16 is located directly abutting next door to the west. And in terms of height, RS60, which it is now, would permit 35 feet high, which is the expected height or near the expected height of this project. Thank you.
Does that end your presentation?
Yeah, and just to add, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to add, there are no variations proposed or before you at all.
So,
A motion made by Councilman Maniscalco to close, seconded by Councilman Goode. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Miranda, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 9, REZ 22-62. An ordinance being presented for first reading. An ordinance rezoning property general vicinity of 2408 North Himes Avenue, 3604 Beach Street, and 3606 Beach Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 zoning from district classification RS50 residential single family to RM16 residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
Second.
A motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Miranda.
Yes.
Goode.
yes.
Vieira. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on June 16, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Well, all those cases went much quicker than I thought. And the whole reasoning why doing that was so that we could accommodate Councilman Vieira. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not mind, I would like to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. City Council evening session is back in session. Roll call.
Carlson, Vieira,
Wait a second, is Carlson here?
Maniscalco,
Here.
Hurtak, Goose,
Here.
Miranda,
Here.
and Citro.
I
We
believe
have-
Councilman Carlson is here.
Councilman Carlson is
Carlson?
now here.
He is on.
Councilman Vieira, can you hear me?
He's not on.
Councilman Vieira. Ladies and gentlemen, Councilman Vieira is on his way back to City Hall, and he will be listening on his phone.
Wait a second, I don't know whether that's quite sufficient for the purposes.
We are starting agenda item number 5, file number AB 12120.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I just want to be absolutely clear on this. Is Council Member Vieira, did he respond to the roll call?
No, he didn't.
Then it
We're
would,
we're gonna start this.
Yes.
We're gonna start this, okay?
very well.
Thank you.
But-
We're gonna start this, and when he comes through the door, you can tell him what you think, but we're gonna start this right now.
Understood.
Thank you.
And again, we have 6 council members, 5 in chambers, and 1 Councilmember Carlson is virtual. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of City Council. For the record, Susan Johnson-Velez, Senior Assistant City Attorney. Item number 5 is on tonight's agenda based upon a special magistrate's recommendation from a request for relief filed by Maya Tampa LLC and 1202 Franklin Holdings LLC pursuant to Section 70.51, otherwise known as the Florida Land Use and Environmental Dispute Resolution Act. I want to make just a few brief comments before providing the history of this application and the details of the proposed settlement. So unlike the other applications that you've heard this evening, anytime City Council considers a settlement proposal, your role is legislative and allows Council to consider items outside of the city's land development code and comp plan, including but not limited to the impact and public interest resulting from the proposed settlement. After I conclude my presentation, you will hear briefly from Attorney Scott Steady, who is retained by the city and Maya Tampa to be the special magistrate for these proceedings. Once Mr. Steady confirms the mediation process that we followed and his recommendations, you will hear from city staff, you'll hear from the applicant, members of the public, and then the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal. So as far as the history of this case, as you may recall, at your October 21st, 2021 meeting, after a public hearing on a petition for review filed by neighboring property owners, City Council overturned the zoning administrator's approval with conditions of an alcoholic beverage special use permit, application number AB 121-20 for a special restaurant located at 1202 North Franklin Street. After that essential denial of that special use permit, Maya Tampa filed a request for relief on November 12th of 2021. And in the request, Maya Tampa asserted that the city's denial was unreasonable and unfairly burdened its use of the property. So a request for relief is an administrative proceeding that involves a 2-step process. Step 1 of the process requires the special magistrate to conduct an informal mediation during which the city and Maya Tampa consider alternatives and adjustments that are responsive to City Council's decision to deny the application. In this case, the special magistrate conducted the Step 1 informal mediation on January 18th, and then we continued the mediation to a second date on February 10th of 2022. Members of the public were invited to and attended both of these mediation sessions, and at the conclusion of the February 10th, 2022 mediation, we were able to identify revised conditions that we believe sufficiently address the issues raised at the October 2021 hearing, and we agreed to cooperate in finalizing the site plan that is before you this evening. The applicant filed the revised site plan on May 12th, 2022 that included a number of revised conditions that the applicant and Mr. Steady will describe to you, and which are also included in the ordinance as well as on the site plan. So the special magistrate, in his report and recommendation dated March 10th of 2022, recommends that City Council favorably consider this proposal. The site plan before you this evening is essentially the same as the one considered by council back in October of 2021, except for the revised conditions, which again are included in the magistrate's recommendation as well as in the ordinance. Tonight, again, staff will make a presentation to you, including the changes that are being proposed, and then the applicant will make a presentation to you on the project. In a regular AB special use hearing, City Council would be looking solely at whether the applicant has demonstrated by substantial competent evidence that the project meets the city's regulations and is consistent with the comp plan. But because this, again, is a settlement proposal, there are other factors that City Council should take into consideration. Namely that the filing of a proceeding under this statute tolls the time period under which a property owner can seek judicial review of the denial. And so the applicant could still file a petition in circuit court seeking a review of City Council's denial. So you should take into consideration, the fact that this settlement could avoid the substantial costs that often are attendant with court proceedings. Pursuant to section 70.5121, City Council has 3 options this evening with respect to the special magistrate's recommendation. After hearing all of the evidence and testimony with respect to the proposed AB permit and revised site plan, City Council may accept the special magistrate's recommendation by adopting a motion approving the alcoholic beverage permit and then proceed to implement the recommendation. In this case, implementation of the magistrate's recommendation requires City Council to place the ordinance on first reading, and a second reading on the ordinance would still be required. If City Council, on the other hand, determines that Maya Tampa has failed to meet its burden, and after taking into consideration the other relevant matters that I've described to you this evening, then City Council may reject the special magistrate's recommendation. And finally, your third option is that City Council may modify the special magistrate's recommendation with Maya Tampa's acceptance of the modifications and then proceed to implement the modified recommendation again by placing the ordinance on first reading. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this point. If there are none, I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Steady, and then you'll hear from city staff, the applicant, the public, and then rebuttal.
Any questions for Ms. Johnson-Velez?
Yes, Chairman, members, City Council, Scott Steady, Suite 3201, Tampa City Center. As Susan said, I was the special magistrate, the mediator. Also, Susan said we had 2 what I thought were productive sessions. It took time between the first one and the second one to kind of fine-tune some of the conditions. I would say I believe your staff worked hard along with the petitioner to try to balance between fixing the problem that occurred previously with coming up with conditions that would allow the business to be successful. There were residents and neighbors that participated. I think they did affect the final conditions, but I understand they're here today and perhaps will identify some more concerns. But with that, based on the mediation that occurred and the efforts that were made, I recommend the City Council consider and approve the revised conditions. And Susan mentioned I'm not going to go through the conditions. I'll let Eric go through the conditions and or the petitioner to save time. Thank you.
Any questions for the magistrate? Thank you.
Evening, Council. Eric Cotton, Development Coordinator. I've been sworn. Just to situate Council on this property, this is 1202 North Franklin Street. It's at towards the north side of downtown. Again, as Susan had previously indicated, this is the proposed site plan. The main change that has been submitted between this and the original plan that Council had seen back in October is just the list of conditions, which I does Council want me to read? I know you have these in the record. Do you want me to read them into the record, or is this sufficient?
I think you should read them into the record, please.
Okay. I have to take these back because I can't see that well anymore. The first condition is Section 27.132, regulations governing individual special uses, alcoholic beverage sales. The establishment will be considered a special restaurant as defined in Chapter 27, the City of Tampa Code. 2, the establishment shall only be operated as an establishment whose business is in the preparation, serving, and selling of food to customers for immediate consumption on or in the vicinity of the premises or for takeout by customers. Food shall continuously be ready to be prepared, served, and sold during all business operational hours. Establishment shall be appropriately licensed as a restaurant or similar food service type by the state of Florida. Number 3 is reporting requirements set forth in code section 27.319 shall apply. Just so you know what that means, it's the 51.49%. So each year they will have to file showing that they are selling at least 51% food product, not 51% alcohol. The proposed hours of operation where the interior of the establishment shall close at 11 o'clock Sunday through Thursday and midnight on Friday and Saturday. The rooftop shall basically operate under the same hours, 11 o'clock Sunday through Thursday and 12 and midnight on Friday and Saturday. No amplified sound of any sort on rooftop after 11 p.m. No DJ events will be permitted on the property at any given time. At any time, if live music is featured, the following conditions would apply. It shall be permitted inside on the ground floor only, and during such performances, all doors, sliding panels, and windows would have to remain closed. If a sidewalk cafe permit was lawfully issued, that's a separate process that would be allowed in Chapter 22. The area allowed for use would be dining patrons only and comply with the requirements set forth in the code, and will operate with the same hours as the restaurant. No standing or congregating on the sidewalk would be permitted, except for patrons waiting to get into the establishment be allowed to wait on the sidewalk. The establishment is prohibited from any use or implementation of a cover charge or any admission fee at any time for regular patronage or special events. For the purposes of this condition, a cover charge or admission fee shall not include the following events: venue rental fees or charges, premium add-ons to patrons' bills for special events such as UFC fights, or admission fees charged or paid by a third party, which has reserved the space for the establishment, such as an event hosted by the Urban Land Institute of the American Cancer Society. Noise-limited equipment shall be applied to all amplified sound on the rooftop. Notwithstanding the above conditions, the establishment shall comply with Chapter 14, Article 3 of the City of Tampa Code, which is the City of Tampa Noise Ordinance. In the event of a conflict between these conditions and the City of Tampa Noise Ordinance, the stricter standard shall apply. And finally, the establishment shall operate as a special restaurant and not a bar or lounge or nightclub as defined in Chapter 27-43.
Any questions for Mr. Cotton?
All right, thank you, Council.
Petitioner.
If we could have IT help pull up our presentation, please. I think we're still seeing the Elmo here.
Let's see. There you go.
Mr. Chair, can you all see our presentation? Okay, thank you. Jake Kramer, for the record, 401 East Jackson Street with Stearns Weaver Miller. Ms. Bidell is passing out some binders. The only new material in the binders that's not in the record already is a hard copy of our presentation for tonight. Mr. Chair and Council, we've worked hard to address the concerns we heard from you all back late last year, and my partner Jessica Iserman is going to present a presentation for you. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jessica Iserman. My address is 401 East Jackson Street, Suite 2100. With us today is Cynthia Spidell, an AICP certified planner. Also with us today is Gary Ubelhoer, who is our noise expert. So in the event you have questions with respect to noise, we can bring him up. I'd first like to thank staff and Mr. Steady. I believe we've worked long and hard, and this might be the hardest earned special use permit that staff has worked on. Let's see. So like Mr. Cotton said, the property is located on North Franklin Street. This is within the Central Business District and in the future land use category of the Central Business District. And as Ms. Johnson-Velez indicated, there are 3 options available to you tonight. You can approve the report and recommendation of the special magistrate. You can deny the report and recommendation, which would mean that we proceed to step 2 of the Fluger process. That would be a hearing. And the third option is to modify that report and recommendation with the consent of the applicant. Given that the consent of the applicant is required for modification, I would request you consider not closing the public hearing so that we may come up and interact with you in the event you do have revised conditions that you'd like us to consent upon. So at mediation, we wanted to start with conditions that we knew the neighbors supported. So we used conditions under the current approval, which is AB 120-29 as our baseline. So in the report and recommendation from Mr. Steady, you'll see conditions with track changes. The original text shows the conditions that are currently imposed on the property under the current special use permit. The track changes show the revised mediated conditions. We completely threw out the conditions approved by your zoning administrator, which were appealed by some of the neighbors. I point this out because, frankly, I want you to see that we're trying to be accommodating to the greatest extent possible while keeping the property marketable for a restaurant use. And in the spirit of compromise, we're pleased to present you with some modifications to those mediated conditions. And these are in response to some of the neighbors' concerns that we've seen raised after the mediation. The first modified condition is to condition number 5, which pertains to amplified sound on the rooftop. We have proposed to revise this condition from there shall be no amplified sound on any sort on the rooftop space after 11 p.m. to there shall be no amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop space after 10 p.m. So this is a reduction of amplified sound on the rooftop by 1 hour, and we are offering that to you today. The second modified condition deals with settlement condition number 9. This is what I colloquially call the cover charge condition. We heard from some of the neighbors that they did not appreciate the added sentence and believed that they were uncomfortable with that language. So we have agreed to revert to the existing language today, which we know is not objectionable to the neighbors. So that underlined sentence is in the presentation. That is what we added on during mediation. We are agreeing to take that added sentence off. And that would mean that the modified condition would read, the establishment is prohibited from any use or implementation of a cover charge or any admission fee at any time for regular patronage or special events, etc. So given all that, I'd like to walk you through the proposed conditions in more detail. Conditions number 1, 2, and 3 ensure that the property will be operated as a restaurant. And as a reminder, operation as a restaurant is enforced at both the state and local level. A restaurant must have 51% or more of sales in food and 49% or less of sales in alcohol. The establishment must comply with reporting requirements of these sales at both the state and local level. If compliance is not maintained at the state level, the state will revoke that state level alcohol license. Likewise, if compliance is not maintained at the local level, the city may hold a section 27-318 hearing, which is an enforcement hearing before city council, wherein council may suspend or revoke the special use permit for non-compliance.
Please continue.
Okay. The next condition is condition number 4. This condition applies to hours of operation. The mediated condition amended the current approved hours of operation in 2 ways. One, Sunday was brought to be the same as Monday through Thursday, to treat it as any other weekday, and the rooftop hours were amended to be the same as the interior hours. So what the mediated condition provides is that Sunday through Thursday, the interior and the rooftop of the restaurant shall close at 11 p.m. And Friday and Saturday, the interior and rooftop of the restaurant shall close at midnight. And I want to point out, so we're going to move to condition number 5, which is the modified condition, which is that there shall be no amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop after 10 p.m. That is regardless of the hours of operation.
May I interrupt you for one
Sure.
second? Let the record reflect that Councilman Vieira is here. Councilman, I'm going to ask you this question. From this point forward, can you give a decision on this by the competent and substantial evidence that you're hearing from this point forward?
Mr. Shelby, I think, yes, but go ahead.
First of all, Council, as Ms. Johnson-Velez did state, this is your decision whether to accept or reject or modify the zoning administrator's recommendation is a legislative matter. And it is not the same as, let's say, an AB hearing. But that being said, the question, I guess, is, Councilman Vieira, have you had the opportunity to hear the entire presentation at this point? And from the time that you from the time of the start of the hearing to the time you came in here today, do you have any question that you had the opportunity to hear the entire hearing?
Yes, I mean, so I'll tell you all what happened is, when we started, I tried to log on, and I was having connectivity problems at Pepin for some darn reason. So I was able to hear and see everything. So I saw that it was a 10-minute drive to here, so I kept it on while I drove and listened to everything. And probably the time that I missed is 45 seconds, which is not unlike going to use the restroom. So I'm totally fine. And I heard everything, and Mr. Cotton, and whole 9 yards. So I'm fine.
And a question for the petitioner: do you have any objection to Mr. Vieira participating based on what you've heard?
We have no objection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption. Please continue.
No problem. So, again, I just want to reiterate for condition number 5, which restricts amplified sound on the rooftop after 10 p.m., that is regardless of the hours of operation. No matter what the hours are, the rooftop noise must cease at 10 p.m. Condition number 6 prohibits DJs. This condition is not objectionable to the neighbors. Condition number 7 addresses live music and limits live music to the interior of the establishment with all doors, sliding panels, and windows closed. To the best of our knowledge, the neighbors do not object to this condition. Condition number 8 relates to the sidewalk area of the establishment. To the best of our condition, the neighbors do not object to this condition. And again, condition number 9 is related to the cover charge condition. And we have proposed to modify it in such a way where we believe the neighbors are not in objection to the revised or the modified condition number 9. Again, that modification reverts the condition to the already approved permit condition. Conditions number 10, 11, and 12 are new conditions to be imposed that were added during mediation. Condition number 10 provides that noise limiting equipment must be applied to all amplified sound on the rooftop. This condition initially had a decibel limit associated with it, but city staff did not agree to a decibel limit because enforcement of such a condition was tricky. And we wanted to ensure that all conditions would be enforceable. So to the best of our knowledge, this condition is not objectionable to the neighbors. They are just confused by the addition of this condition because there is no decibel limit. Condition number 11 incorporates the city's noise ordinance into the permit conditions. This means that noise violations are also a violation of this special use permit. This provides the city with significantly stricter enforcement options than almost any other restaurant, bar, or nightclub within the city. This is essentially because the noise ordinance is a permit condition and the violation of which would result in a citation from TPD, as well as triggering a section 27-318 hearing. And again, that is an enforcement hearing before City Council, wherein the council may suspend or revoke the special use permit. You will have the enforcement opportunities and responsibilities upon this special use permit, not just TPD. To my knowledge, this condition is not objectionable to neighbors. Condition number 12 prohibits the establishment from operating as a bar or a lounge or nightclub as those terms are defined in the city's code. This condition is not objectionable to neighbors. With that, I'd like to have Ms. Cynthia Spidel speak to you briefly about compatibility of the establishment with the surrounding area.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Spidel, 401 East Jackson Street in Tampa at Stearns Weaver, and I have been sworn. I'm an AICP certified planner with 17 years of experience, and as conditioned, I continue to believe that the special use is consistent with the applicable provisions of the comp plan and compatible with the surrounding residential uses. There is a planning report that we submitted into the record in October of 2021. I have not made any changes to that planning report, so I still stand by with that report, as these conditions are more onerous than what was done before. So basically, there are several comp plan policies that promote restaurants and retail on Franklin Street, as well as in the Central Business District, and it is clear from the comp plan that this location is intended to be an area in which is very urban in nature, where people, places, and things are in close proximity to each other. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Goose.
More or less for legal, condition 9 and I believe it's 12, how is that enforceable? Condition 9, as it relates to cover charge, how does that mean? How does that work into this? I'm kind of confused on that. And I guess number 12, I don't have the code to look up that, but I'm just kind of wondering how that ties in. Eric, explain it to me.
Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. I'm not the legal department, so y'all know I'm not an attorney.
Somebody explain it to me. Somebody.
So condition number 12, a bar, lounge, and a nightclub, their principal purpose is the selling of alcoholic beverages versus a restaurant, which the principal business should be the selling of food. So that's where the reporting comes in under 27.319. They have to report every year. So each year, staff in January sends out a postcard reminding people that you got to report this establishment. If it's approved by council, would we get that same response? They have to report. They provide figures of what they've sold percentage-wise and a copy of their commercial insurance showing that they're a restaurant, not a bar or a lounge or a nightclub. Number 9 is going to honestly probably be more on the honor system by the operator. Staff won't be, unless we happen to go to this establishment one night and they want to charge us a cover charge, it's going to be on the honor system. They're saying they're not going to do it. If it turns out that they are doing it and we have evidence that they are charging a cover charge to get in, whether we see it like on the web or something like that, then we would bring them before council for a suspension or revocation.
I'm just wondering how, that's why I asked that question, because I don't, unless that's gonna happen, I don't see it enforceable myself as number 9. And you talk about a 5149, that still can easily be get around. I know the bar industry very well and the restaurant industry very well. So those are a couple of concerns I do have when you're talking about enforceable. That's why I asked you how you're going to enforce that, because I think it's going to be still kind of hard to enforce 12 and 9.
So in number 12, the reporting requirement is true of every restaurant that has approval by council or by staff through an administrative process. They have to report. One of the requirements are, like for this establishment as a special restaurant, I believe they're going to have an SRFS license from the state. So they have to report to the state the same numbers they report to us. They have to file with the state each year showing their 5149 split. And that's the determination of what would be considered a restaurant based on their sales percentage.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your explanation and quite a little bit understand. However, the R, do we still do audits like we used to do in the past when sometime back in history there would be a line of 20 or 30 people that didn't qualify or meet the R restriction? Do we still do that?
We still send out the letters. When people do not report, they can still be brought before city council. They still have to report, yes.
So I haven't seen any in the last 8 years.
Well, during COVID, it was more difficult to respond
Well,
back
I'll give you
to.
2 years. I'll make it 6 then.
The 6, before that was actually done by a department I wasn't associated with. But I do recall before that, we used to bring people before council on a regular basis because when y'all would put a fine on it and say you're going to be suspended, people would have run over and we were still next door to pay their fine so they wouldn't get suspended.
I understand
So
that.
we still will bring people forward if they're not reporting,
But
yes.
do we still do physical audits where they sit down and look at the
No, sir,
amount?
we go by what they send to us. We don't go back and check the books.
physical audit. Somebody used to go and audit, didn't they?
I can't respond because I don't know.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, Mr. Cotton.
Yes, sir.
From my own personal knowledge, maybe some of the people watching on TV or in the audience, the 51% of food, how is that justified? And let me ask it a different way. Is that rated by the amount of food purchased or the amount of food sold? Because let me get to it. Because if it's by purchase, some restaurants and bars get away with having an open buffet and you come in and eat, but it still shows that they're purchasing all this food.
No, it's amount sold to the consumer.
Amount sold. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Okay. Yes, sir.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other questions? Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I wonder if it's okay to ask a legal question. I know Ms. Johnson-Velez already spoke and Jake spoke, but I wonder if either or both of them would like to just weigh in on more about what happens if we say no tonight. What's the legal basis for the applicant to sue the city, and how would that process go?
Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. So we're still in, this is part of the FLUDRA process, the statutory process. This is part of step one. We went through the mediation process, which is kind of what we refer to as step one. We reached a settlement at the mediation, and it's now before council for consideration on what you decide to take action on, whether you decide to accept or reject or modify. If you reject the application or the settlement recommendation, then it would go back to the magistrate for Part 2 proceedings under the statute.
Could you just tell us, and if it's not appropriate, stop me, but could you just tell us, or maybe Jake would like to weigh in, what's the legal argument for why, if we say no to tonight, why it might not hold under legal scrutiny? What would be the response from the applicant? What would the case be?
Well, this again is consideration of a settlement proposal, and so it's different than your garden variety AB permit application. This is coming to you in a different posture, if you will, because it's part of this statutory proceeding.
Jake stood up. Thank you.
Jay Kramer.
Jake, did you have any comments on that? I guess I asked the question wrong, but is there any comment? Like, what would happen? And not to put you on the spot, but just for the folks in the audience who may be speaking out against this, what's the likely response if we said no tonight? What would kind of your argument be?
Sure. Jake Kramer again for the record. Thank you for the question, Councilman. So as Ms. Johnson-Velez mentioned, the next step, if we're not able to settle tonight, would be that we would actually have a hearing in front of that as a part of this FLUDRA process. And then that report would potentially come back before you all again to consider that recommendation. Now, if we're not able to resolve this at that hearing, then potentially, our hope is that we can resolve this, but potentially there would be litigation afterwards. Our concern is that we had many experts and there at the last hearing, and there was not competent substantial evidence supporting council's decision in the last hearing. Frankly, the other concern we have is that there may be Burt Harris claims down the road, because we have not, the reason we need relief and we need to modify these conditions is our client has not been able to find any restaurant operators who are willing to take the space and bring a concept into this building because the current restrictions are so onerous.
And you feel with these changes, the list of agreements that you all came to, that you could find a tenant under those conditions?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
To conclude, we respectfully request council approve the mediated settlement today with the modified conditions that we have brought before you. And I do want to just point out that, the decision today, in my opinion, shouldn't be made on assumptions of non-compliance or assumptions of non-enforcement. These conditions are actually stricter than any other restaurant you have in the entire city of Tampa. And when you make decisions and impose conditions, you always assume compliance and you assume enforcement, and you have mechanisms in place if those are not obtained or achieved. Thank you, and we are available for questions.
Any questions for the petitioner? Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you, Chair. I have it sounded, I just want a clarification. So there is not a concept or a provider yet for this space?
No, we cannot find a concept or a provider for this space.
Any other questions? Councilman Miranda.
Was there any providers at all listed before?
Yes, we, if you recall, during our October public hearing before you, we did have a potential operator. That operator has now walked away.
Thank you.
Is there a reason why that operator walked away?
Because at the October hearing, City Council voted to approve the neighbor's appeal and revert to the original conditions, and that operator could not work under those original conditions.
Did you get that in writing?
No, I don't believe so.
Thank you.
And the operator?
Councilman Miranda.
The operator that you had, there was no contract already given to them?
No, there was no.
So that was just a casual operation?
I'd have to confirm with my client. I don't believe they entered a written agreement other than maybe email exchanges.
But there was no signed contract to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak to this? Okay, please form a line to my left, your right. Podium is open. Come on up to the podium. Good evening.
Good evening. I was sworn in. My name is Luciano Prida. I developed my 1106 North Franklin Street and moved in December 1st, 1985. I've been in that neighborhood. I built the condo project, which is 1108 North Franklin Street. At the time that I was under construction, this building was rehabbed and Flybar came there. Flybar never had any music on the rooftop. They were very successful. They had music inside the building, but they never had music on the rooftop. The only thing they had is they would, when the townhomes were built on the just north there, they would project the hockey game up on the townhome wall, and you could hear. I currently live 705. Rooftop music. This is a residential neighborhood. We got units in Arlington. My condo, my patios, my balcony is probably 50 feet from the rooftop, and it would be allowing music on that rooftop would have a negative impact on the value of my residence and all the residences around there, given what's going on the 900 block. Take the evidence of 900, what's going on in 900 block, and it'll, the same thing happen. This owner had this situation before. So I just want to say that Flybar was very successful, did a great job, and they never had music on the rooftop. And I did meet with the proposed person that was Assad that was gonna, take this place over, and his comment, and I can provide it, text to me that music on the rooftop, he went on the rooftop, one day, and, I met him there, and he said, music's impossible. 1,000% impossible, and it is. It impacts the residences in Arlington, especially Arlington, which is an older building. Residences, we have some, it was built using the Miami-Dade specs after the Hurricane Andrew, so there's a little more sound protection. But anyway, that's what I have to say. You know, it's impossible. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor, Mr.
Sir?
Prida. Mr. Prida?
I have a quick question, just for clarification. Can you explain what the issues on the 900 block mean?
You got Eden, which you've had shootings there. You have Bello, who was supposed to be closed by 11, and they were open past 11, plus music going on. So they don't follow the rules. And well, Mr. Miranda talked about auditing. They don't audit 5149 anymore. They used to audit. I was director of internal audit city of Tampa way back in the 80s. Councilman Miranda, I think you were around at that time. But so 5149, it's a form, they fill it out and submit, and there's nobody ever goes and audits to determine whether they really sold 51% food or not.
Thank you.
And I'm a CPA, and I represent restaurants, and I've been doing it for 50 years. June 12th, I would have been doing it for 50 years. And I went through examinations on the 5149% filings in the past, but that's gone away.
Thank you, Mr. Prida. Next.
My name is James DeMauro. I live at 1108 North Franklin Street, Unit 406. I'd like to respectfully ask the council to please use their option to reject the mediation report. I feel that it was faulty in the sense that there were members of the community present, but they were not allowed to participate by speaking in any way. The letter that we received concerning the outcome of the mediation was confusing. The blue and writing and the red and writing, but what I was able to gather, and I'm not a lawyer, is that the special events is now being allowed, which would take different hours of closing, and it would be ticketed items. People could pay tickets for the special events. There could be crowds of people. Last time when we had Mole open and they had special events, 300 people showed up that paid tickets, and they had standing outside in melees, people in line making a lot of noise, no security watching over the neighborhood. I would like to just point out that the rental, if Mole is allowed to have special events, they should be restricted to the same restrictions that Mole has. They shouldn't be allowed to have special hours. I agree with Lou. I think that there's nobody in the neighborhood who wants to have amplified music on the rooftop. We've been saying that from the get-go. The 51%, is that 51% of food served all day? Or like, can they do like 99% alcohol at night and balance it with 90% of food during the day? So is it gonna turn into a nightclub after they've done their 51% of the food? And then the other thing is, this is a central business district, but there are 1,200 people living within a quarter mile of this restaurant. And I think that should be respectfully considered by the council. I appreciate your former stance on this, and I ask you to go ahead and do the same thing if you could. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sam Smith, 1108 North Franklin. Well, I appreciate some of the changes that have been offered that we didn't know about, so it's going to change my speech a little. But and some of those are certainly very helpful. There was, in fact, a magistrate-led mediation that we were invited to, and again, we were simply an audience. We were not able to participate, which I think is important in that. So we live next door to Mole Abuela on Franklin Street. Our unit is on the corner with a balcony facing both Franklin and Royal. We bought our home because we love the quiet, historic residential feel of the neighborhood while being close to everything downtown has to offer. We loved the previous restaurant Fly Bar, which was there before we moved in. The current owner has allowed its operator to consistently break the rules, as has happened down the street in the 900 block, as Mr. Liu said. To go specifically to some of the things that they talked about, no one who intends to operate a nice neighborhood restaurant needs to be open past 10 on weekdays and 11 on weekends. It would take an hour after the last person is served to be closed, making it 1 a.m. Going also with your 5149, if it's open at lunch, it's serving food all day, somewhere between 10 and midnight, it's serving mostly drinks. And that certainly is going to affect the neighborhood. Obviously, the cover has been addressed. There's certainly no reason to have a cover charge, even with any exceptions of third-party operators or UFC fights. UFC fights don't even start till midnight because they're starting in half the time in Las Vegas. Regarding amplified music, I appreciate that they say no DJs, but it was awful when we were living there during that time. My wife, who's a physician at USF, needs to be able to rest, to adequately care for her patients. It's been a rough couple of years on healthcare providers, rough on all of us. But she had to sleep in an interior bathroom of our home on an inflatable mattress because it was just too loud. And yes, there are promises now to shut the doors. When it's thumping in there, even with those doors shut, it vibrates our building. I can imagine the Arlington is probably worse because it's an older building. We have hurricane windows, but you still feel the bass. You may not hear it so much. And we also would like to go out on our own balcony and enjoy our own home sometimes. We're happy to have a restaurant. We love Fly Bar. We love going to the Straz and having a drink before, but we need it to operate, like a neighbor. So whether there's changes, I hope that you will reject it or at least cause there to be some changes in this to make them good neighbors. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jennifer Jones, and I live at the Arlington and have lived there for 9 years at 1229 North Franklin Street. That's across the street from this establishment. And my bedroom windows are as close as you can possibly be in our building to this establishment. I also represent the Homeowners Association of the Arlington. So we have about 21 units, and we have about 20 residents that live in our building. I personally witnessed what happened whenever Mole Abuela was open. It was a nightmare. Things that happened were, for instance, they used an air horn on the roof, which you can imagine how loud that was over a loudspeaker. The crowds that they generated, the noise, the yelling, the Gasparilla-style trash, the trespassing on all of our properties, the fights from the crowds that would erupt as they were exiting the premises. There were people we actually had video evidence of people being hit by cars in the parking lot, fights breaking out in the parking lot. This was bedlam. And the problem is that this same applicant owns Bello down the street on the 900 block of Franklin. And so we've seen the operations that are happening on that block as well. And that's exactly what we want to try to avoid coming down to our end of the neighborhood. And specifically what I'm referencing are the fights and the gun violence. So within about a 6-month period, there were 3 separate incidents of gunshots on that 900 block of Franklin, and I had the privilege of personally witnessing 2 of them. So both times I was out walking my dog, reasonable times of night, not super late, not even weekends, and one time we hit the ground. I had to call 911 with my dog. 5 more shots rang out as I'm cowering on the ground from this block because these people have spilled out into the street with their fights. And then the second one, luckily, I was further away, a couple blocks away, but I heard the gunshot, and I thought, this cannot be happening again. I cannot be hearing, walking my dog, gunshots 3 blocks from my house. But that's what happened, and in that particular incident, someone died, another man was shot, and apparently the gentleman doing the shooting was the news reported that he was attacked by 3 gentlemen, including with a knife. So that's what's happening at Bello, which is the other establishment owned by this applicant. And that's what we don't want to have happen on our, right here on our residences, with both the residences and then the townhomes and Arlington, all of these people surrounding this building. So our main objection right now are the hours and the rooftop operations. Again, what we'd like to try to do is prevent this establishment from creeping into operating like a nightclub, and I don't use that in the sense that, that it's defined in the code necessarily, but when I say nightclub operations, I think you understand what I'm saying. We cannot have amplified sound on that rooftop. It's too loud and it's too close to all of our bedrooms. That just won't work. And there's no upper noise limit on the limiting the decibels, so that's a condition that just can't be enforced. So I would urge this council to reject or at least impose additional modifications. Thank you.
Good evening, council. My name is Kathy Forstoffer. I represent the Downtown Residents Association. We have heard their complaints and we stand behind all of their issues when it comes to these provisions, and some of them we just heard tonight for the first time. I did, at least. I question how we're going to enforce the decibel level. The towers at Channelside, that was a big issue for them. They had people out there holding devices. I know they really pushed for that whole thing to be that, as far as what they had to go through, or still are possibly. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing is, of course, just having that rooftop and the poor residents that are so close by and have the balconies they have to, enjoy as part of their property. And, if there's any noise at any time of night that they can't be out there and sleeping and it's just a quality of life issue. So that's where I stand and the downtown residents do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fernando Perez. I live at 1212 North Franklin Street, directly next to Mole Abuela. 60 feet, my bedroom window is 60 feet from their rooftop. Before I get into my comments, I just wanted to mention very quickly that some of the comments made to you by Ms. Eiserman are not accurate. And after I finish my comments, I'd be more than happy to answer questions for you, including what happened to the previous person who was thinking about operating there. At the last hearing, you recognized that the license approved by the city did not protect the residents and did not prevent Mia Tampa from turning 1202 North Franklin into a nightclub. That led to the mediation and the recommendations before you. We ask you in the strongest possible way to reject the recommendations. If you approve them, Mia Tampa and their owner will have exactly what they've always wanted: the ability to open later, the ability to charge a cover charge, and the ability to play music on the roof. All he needs to turn this into a nightclub. We also ask you to reject the recommendations because the mediation process was dubious. I was there at the first mediation hearing. Numerous times during the mediation hearing, the magistrate turned to us and told us that while we could make comments, none of our comments mattered. And here I thought, as a petitioner in the petition that came before you, that the whole purpose of that mediation was to look after our interests. The second thing that was concerning is that several times during the hearing, everybody except the residents exited the mediation room so they could speak outside of where we could hear it. I don't know if that's the way these mediation proceedings go, but that just didn't seem right to me. When they ended the first hearing, they said that they would reconvene again and we would be told. Yes, we were told. We received an email middle of the afternoon the day before the hearing, which what seems to me was an attempt to limit the number of residents who could appear. Contrary to what the recommendations tell you, there are no residents, there's nobody in that area that's in favor of any of these recommendations. So you can imagine our disappointment, but not our surprise, when these recommendations give Mia Tampa exactly what they were wanted. Even after the city representative admitted that it would be difficult to enforce any kind of noise violation, they still approved the ability for amplified sound. And don't be fooled by the noise limiter. That's smoke and mirrors. There's no decibel limit set. There's no way to monitor that. They couldn't answer those questions at the mediation hearing. And who's responsible for policing that? The owner? And how easy is it to bypass it? You know this establishment. You shut his operations down at Franklin Manor. You shut him down at Mole and Abuela. The only establishment he now has is Bello. Bello violates noise ordinances every night. There's been 2 shootings associated with its patrons. It stays open beyond the time. How many times is this person going to get a chance to do this? So we urge you in the strongest possible way to realize that the law is not going to be followed. You're our only hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay.
I'm Debbie Perez, and I too live at 1212 North Franklin Street, and my bedroom window is 60 feet away from Mole Abuelo's rooftop. Do you know what it's like to be woken out of a dead sleep to your bed thumping and your heart pounding? I call the police, they show up, stay for a few minutes, then they leave. And then the pounding noise starts all over again. I try and fall back asleep. That's not going to happen. I just lay there wishing it would just stop and go back to the way it was before Mr. Dahmer opened his nightclub. Then I realize they're screaming below my bedroom window. Are they fighting again? Car horns are blaring, engines are revving, and car stereos are blasting. I think about getting up and getting dressed and walking next door and asking them, will you please turn it down? Will you be a little quiet? But then I remember the street fights, people getting run over, the drunken crowds, the drugs being consumed on my front porch. I'm too scared. Now picture this going on every single night to 3 and 4 in the morning and sometimes 5. This will return if you let this irresponsible nightclub owner play amplified sound and music on the roof, allow him cover charges, and say open later. When I moved here 14 years ago, this was a quiet neighborhood. We had a quiet local restaurant next door at 1202 North Franklin Street. We never had a problem with them. I felt safe to go outside. But that all ended when Mole Abuelo opened their doors. At first, it was just loud music, but when called, they would turn it down. But after a couple of months, they started ignoring our calls. Now I had to get up, get dressed, go next door, and ask them to turn the music down. That worked for about a month, and they completely ignored these requests. Now fast forward to May of 2020, the most exhausting, terrifying, helpless time in my life. I have never been officially diagnosed with PTSD, but it doesn't take a doctor to spot someone who has experienced a terrifying trauma. It has taken every morsel of my being to be here tonight, to speak to you. It's caused me to have to face my fears, my worst fears, and the possibility of reliving those experiences again. Even now, when I'm asleep, if I hear a loud noise, I wake up in sheer panic. This is no way to live. I've been severely affected by the blatant disregard this owner has for me, my husband, and the hundreds of residents who live directly next to 1202 Franklin Street, some just 25 feet away. It's our legal right to live peacefully in our homes. How would you have felt living this nightly hell that left you exhausted, emotional, jumpy, fearful, depressed, and anxious? A nightmare that will return if you let this owner play music. Can I finish? We have a couple more sentences. Thank you. Owner, amplified sound and music on the roof, stay open later, and charge cover charges. Things that have nothing to do with a restaurant and everything to do with a nightclub. Our fate is in your hands. Please don't let us be terrorized again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Victor Giordano. My wife and I live in 1108 North Franklin Street, the residents of Franklin Street. We have lived there for about 10 years. Our front door is approximately 25 feet away from Mole Abuela, so you can, I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said. I was also there for the first mediation, and Mr. Dahmer's concern at the first mediation was that he could not find an operator to operate his restaurant with the restrictions that you guys imposed. I'd just like to bring it to your attention why he is wrong. So you have, right off the bat, you have Epicurean, the hotel, rooftop, no amplified music, has been around forever. You've all probably have been there. You have Bula, Howard, it's in a residential area, rooftop, no amplified music. They've been very, very successful. You have Timpanos, inside has a DJ with closed doors. You have Forbici, I'm sure you've been to Forbici. They have a guy playing a guitar every Sunday, that's inside. They're serving food. So there are establishments in Tampa Bay that have been hugely successful. So basically, my thoughts are this. I'm also in the real estate business, commercial real estate. I own a small shopping center. I have 3 restaurants in that shopping center. I am on the internet looking for restaurant space all the time. There has never been an ad for this restaurant on any of the commercial real estate sites. The biggest one is called LoopNet. He has not been on there for the last 2 years looking for an operator. So I don't know how much effort that they're doing to find someone to actually take over the space and start a restaurant. I'd like to close with, I'm terrified if you give in to these concessions. I'd like for you all to stick to your original decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Pavlov. I live on 1216 North Franklin Street. I'm a new resident of Tampa. I bought my home in October and still getting the lay of the land. And all of these incidents have occurred before I have come to the neighborhood. As I am now here in the neighborhood and a resident, I am very concerned, and to be perfectly honest with you, I'm kind of petrified from the testimony that I've heard. If this is in fact what I'm assuming to be my age group that they're after, a millennial crowd or a younger crowd, amplified noise will be amplified already with special events in sheer projection of UFC screaming, right? This is not the State of a Union address. These are events designed to bring rowdy people to our block. We have video evidence from previous of people defecating in my back, where I now live, in my back area, urinating, using drug use, needles, smoking, the list goes on. I purchased my home at a very high price, and I'm very concerned that this is going to lower the property value of everybody around them, because if it is in fact operating like a nightclub, and there are in fact shootings outside, like there are not but 200 feet away, so to speak, right on the 900 block, I can't imagine where this is a city, this is a vision that you want to bestow upon us, and as we develop this area that is set to really boom. And we have a precedent now to set so that everybody can adhere to it and know that they're there to operate just like we're talking about as a restaurant, and not given provisions that are clearly unenforceable, to self-report, unenforceable. We need to make sure that you set that precedent today, you stick by your original decisions that you had, and that we move to the next phase. If they choose to have litigation, that's on them. That is not your concern. Your concern is to protect the neighborhood and the constituents that are around you, and that's what we humbly ask you to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Troy Underwood. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my wife. We're owners of 1214 North Franklin Street. We too, like Aaron, purchased our home in October because we love the urban feel and the residential neighborhood. And I think that's what the city was trying to create. We love the fact that we can walk up and down the street. We're longtime South Tampa residents. We're business owners in Ybor City. And we love the urban feel of Ybor City. But being a chamber member there, I've gone through the battles between the noise and the nightclubs and the residents, and that's something we didn't want. So when we sold our home in Ballast Point, we fell in love with Franklin Street and all that Franklin Street history had. What we didn't know was that a potential nightclub was going to be next door. We always knew the old Fly Bar because we had dined there. We actually had dined at Osteria before it became Bello, and we had a fantastic dinner there. Our first weekend that we stayed in our new house, we went down to Bello, and it was basically a restaurant disguised as a nightclub. And the food had gone from great to horrible, and it was all about the drinks and the noise, and we have not been back since. And we really would love to have a nice restaurant. We would love to have the old Fly Bar there. We just don't think that this owner will participate in a neighborly fashion. And so we strongly ask that you deny him and let him take his next course of actions. And so we just ask you strongly for that, to protect us. You're our only hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Yee online?
Yes, he's on.
Mr. Yee?
Can you see me, counsel?
Yes.
Can you see him?
No?
Hey, good evening, counsel.
No,
I'm
sorry.
Robert.
Hang on.
Is your camera on?
Can you please turn your camera on?
Mr. Yee, please turn your camera on. Thank you.
Okay, one moment. Is it on?
No, it's not.
There it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, counsel. I'm Robert Yee.
I would need to
My
swear
wife
him in.
Rose and I have lived at
Okay,
1218.
you be sworn in, please.
Robert, if you can please raise your right hand.
Oh,
Do you swear or affirm you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, counsel. I'm Robert Yee. My wife Rose and I have lived at 1218 North Franklin Street, next door to Molia Whaler, for almost 13 years. I disagree with the recommendations of the AB 12120 mediation that are being presented this evening. The residents of our neighborhood were allowed to observe the mediation, but had no voice or vote. Our comments and recommendations were ignored, and we who will be most affected by how Mr. Dama operates his business did not have a say-so or agree with much of what is being recommended by the mediator. We are concerned about our neighborhood safety, our property values, and the peaceful occupancy of our homes. All three of these are in jeopardy unless conditions and restrictions are placed on Molia Whaler's license and force Mr. Dama to operate in a manner compatible with our neighborhood. Please place the following conditions on AB 12120. Restrict the operating hours of the business closed at 10 p.m. on weeknights and 11 p.m. on weekend nights. These hours are consistent with a restaurant and will lessen the probability of exiting patrons lingering for hours in our neighborhood as they have done in the past. Number two, prohibit outdoor amplified sound, whether it's music or otherwise, at any time of the day. This business is in close proximity to 3 multi-residential buildings, with the closest having outdoor porches and bedrooms only 25 feet away. Any outdoor amplified music or sound will be a nuisance at any time of the day. The letter I submitted for inclusion in this hearing has pictures that show the closeness of Molia Whaler to the nearest residential building. Mr. Dama is not and has never been a good neighbor in downtown Tampa. He says he wants to run a nice restaurant, but his history shows that his real intentions are to operate nightclubs disguised as restaurants. That's how he previously operated Molia Whaler. In the current way, he operates Bello Bar and Restaurant 3 blocks away, which has the same type of license as Molia Whaler. Bello routinely plays outdoor music that can be heard 1.5 blocks away and occasionally 3 blocks away where I live. They also promote drink specials and events with little mention of food or their menu. You've heard plenty about the previous terror and disruption Mr. Dama brought upon our neighborhood, and I'm sure most of you remember his Franklin Manor business, which was shut down for council for 1 week for creating ongoing neighborhood disruptions. Mr. Dama was also sued by 915 Apartments for this behavior, and council, you shut him down for a week. And recently, there were also 3 gunfire incidents within a 6-month period near Mr. Dama's Bello business. 2 of these incidents can be directly connected to Bello patrons, and one of the incidents resulted in a death. We do not want this at our front doors. Please place conditions on his AB 12120 so he will operate that as a good neighbor and will protect the safety of our neighborhood, the value of our homes, and the peaceful occupancy of our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Pedrada on the phone?
No, he's not logged on.
Okay. Mr. Perez?
Almost everyone appeared in person.
No, I've got Fernando Perez.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm in first.
Okay, thank you.
So that will conclude the registered speakers.
That's all. But no one else online. Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a legal question, if I may. You know, I just want to make sure that what we rely upon for any decision is valid and whatnot, I guess, if you will. You know, we're hearing a lot of opinions on an individual or a group that had run an establishment and now is apparently trying to do the same thing. You know, we often hear when somebody praises somebody who's an applicant that that's not competent, substantial evidence that they are Mr. or Miss Popularity. Is the opposite of that also true? In other words, these statements on the prior performance of the owner, how much, if at all, can we rely upon that for competent, substantial evidence?
Well, again, the decision before you this evening is to what action you're going to take on the recommended settlement, the recommendation of the special magistrate. So again, it's a little bit different standard that you're talking about. I have heard a lot of testimony about the prior operators, and so there's nobody operating that right now. It's not Mole y Abuela. The same, I mean, there may be common ownership between this property and another property where a restaurant is located, but I mean, you have to look at this location kind of and apply the criteria to this location. Okay. The other thing I wanted to, I'm sorry, Susan Johnson, Velez Legal Department. The other thing I wanted to clarify, and I know it was included in some of the letters that we received from the property owners and neighbors who participated in this FLUDRA proceeding, and their frustration with the limitations on their participation in the proceedings. And I'm just going to read directly from the statute. You know, the statute which we operate under for these proceedings requires us to notify any owner of land contiguous to this property and any substantially affected person who submitted oral or written testimony at your original hearing back in October. So we did notify those persons, but so then the statute goes on to discuss the status of those persons in these proceedings. And it says, and I'm quoting, "Those persons may be permitted to participate in the hearing, but shall not be granted party or intervener status. The participation of such persons is limited to addressing issues raised regarding alternatives, variances, and other types of adjustment to the development order or enforcement action which may impact their substantial interests." And so they're not, you know, parties that participate in these proceedings they're not parties and they're not interveners, so they don't really participate, you know, in terms of getting a vote or whether or not, you know, these are acceptable to you. We did, and I'll ask Mr. Setti to come up and just confirm, you know, how some of these folks participated in the proceedings, because I think it was beyond what's normally, you know, beyond the limitations that the statute naturally presents. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Setti.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Member City Council, Scott Steady, I spoke earlier. I understand the frustration, and I've done a number of these. The statute's very clear on the parties. It's typical for during mediation that the parties I take separately out, discuss with them, and come back to the meeting. I mean, that's typical mediation. The statute's clear about the participants. Once there is looks like there is something that would come back to City Council, that's when I open the floor up to hear comments. Otherwise, we'd never get to the point of having something to bring back City Council. So I understand the frustration of the residents, but I'm comfortable with the number of that I've done, that they got to comment quite often on the issues. In between the first one and the second one, I think staff definitely heard their comments. But the statute's very clear on how the process is done. I don't want to get into debate. I know they're frustrated, but the process was followed. And I hope the City Council focuses on the substantive issues, because I don't think the mediation should be. It wasn't tainted in any way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Miranda.
Mr. Steady, in fact, I had written myself a little note here that your job was between this line and this line according to the principles of law within that.
Yes.
And that you were, your duties, and I know you're very capable of what you've done in the past and how you work. And I was going to say to myself, first of all, why is it this way? It's this way because you or any other one that would be here as a mediator has to go between this section of the law, whatever falls in the guidelines of only those specifics.
Right, very much so.
And however, I'm charged with another charge that the city of Tampa has not, to what I've heard today, does not have the same standards that I had 8 or 10 years ago.
Understood.
Thank you.
Petitioner, rebuttal?
Good evening, again, Jessica Eisterman for the record. I'd like to address a couple issues we've heard tonight from some of the residents. First, I want to point out with respect to the reporting requirements, I'll admit, I do not know this to be true, but I will proffer that I have worked for local government in Leon County before, and we stopped requiring reporting records because the states basically took over that responsibility, and it was a waste of our time and money. So I'll just throw that out
They
there.
also took the condominiums.
There's a lot of that preemption going on these days.
Thank you.
So I do want to address, first off, we keep hearing references that this is a residential neighborhood. This is your central business district. This is your urban core. This is the most intense live, work, play area you have in the city of Tampa. You have approved numerous alcohol licenses, or your staff has approved numerous alcohol licenses of restaurants or bars within the exact same building as residential, condominiums or apartments. I'll give you American Social, the Jacksons. We see that all the time, and we want, we want our downtown to be live, work, play. We don't want it to be the desert it was about 10 years ago. With respect to the operator, I do want to point out that we just communicated with our client and we got some emails. So what I'm going to distribute to you is a letter of intent, which was via email. And you can see the terms of the agreement in the letter of intent. Then you will see an email from that same operator, Asad Yusupov. He sent us an email immediately after your public hearing on October 21st, 2021, that says, obviously with the conditions the way they were, we cannot operate a business properly. More importantly, I learned today that even when you do everything the residents want, agree to everything they request, for the most part, it still isn't enough. I'm at a loss for words. That's when the letter of intent was terminated.
Ma'am, we have a council member that is online that cannot see these documents that you presented to us. Would you mind putting them on the Elmo?
Of course.
One by one, and give Councilman Carlson just a moment to be able to see them. Is that all right with you, Councilman Carlson?
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Well, it was there.
There you go.
And Councilman Carlson, after you have reviewed them, can you just give us an indication that you have so we can switch to the next document?
So I'll actually first point you to the letter of intent. Let's just go in chronological order. So you'll see that this is an email dated September 30th, 2021, and we have a email from Assad, who is providing the basic terms of the agreement.
I can see that, thank you.
Okay, can we switch to the next one, please?
Yes, okay. Then we have an email from Assad dated October 21st, 2021, and that is what I just read into the record.
I got it, thanks.
Is it still up there? I'm not seeing, is it still up there?
No.
Have we gone through all the documentation that you've given us?
Yes.
And Councilman Carlson, are you satisfied?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next thing I'd like to take a quick look at is your noise ordinance. Your noise ordinance is, like I said, incorporated as a special use condition as part of this permit. Your noise ordinance is the plainly audible standard. I know you guys have heard at exhaustion the noise ordinance and your plainly audible standard, but if you do have questions on that, we have our noise expert available to answer questions with respect to your noise ordinance. And we have also, I do want to point out your code does require security for any bar or restaurant operated in your central business district. That is a code requirement, even though it's not a condition on this permit. It is code mandated. So there will be security. Then I want to offer up a condition. So we've spoken with our client and we can give you something. That condition is with respect to condition number 5, which is the outdoor amplified sound condition. We had previously proposed, our mediation was 11 p.m. We had proposed 10 p.m. to you at the beginning of this meeting. We can go down to 9 p.m. So that means all amplified sound on the rooftop would cease operation at 9 p.m.
And while you were there, is that including outside on ground level also?
Yes. So I believe we call it amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop. If we'd like to call it outdoor amplified sound.
I'm asking you this. Is that what you're asking for now? Is that included on the ground level?
Yes. And I will, for the record, suggest a modification of condition number 5 to thou shall be no amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop space or outside after 9 p.m. And with that, we will be available for questions. Thank you.
Councilman Goose.
I guess in your brief just now, you talked about in the code security, correct?
That's correct.
Explain that, because I think we correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, I think at this particular time, we have numerous bars and security has been an issue of filling jobs with these bars with security. So is that going to be a condition within this recommendation?
You already imposed that condition through your code. Any bars or restaurants that operate in the evening hours in your central business district are required to hire security. And I believe, I'm going off of memory, I believe it's security, at least one person per 150. And that security official, can be a retired law or off-duty law enforcement officer. And I agree, I have heard, at least anecdotally, that there is difficulty finding security for these establishments. And that's, partly because the job market is difficult and it is required. All of these establishments are supposed to have security.
Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
If I may, I'm not trying to nitpick, but I'm just reading condition 4. And on the current approval from AB 120-29 to the mediated conditions of AB 121-20, which I would imagine is the same operational thing, the hours change on Sunday from current to mediated conditions by 1 hour on Sunday. Yet in the bottom, it says Sunday hours are the same as Monday through Thursday, and then I guess it's equating it to the other side how it was. Then the rooftop hours are the same as the interior hours. Well, the rooftop hours in the current AB 1-2029, Monday through Thursday was at 10. Under mitigated condition, it's not 10 any longer, it's 11 plus 1. Then on Friday and Saturdays, under the current AB 120-29, Friday and Saturday was 11 p.m. Under the new mitigated conditions, AB 12120 is now 12 a.m. or a plus 1. Then you go back to on the rooftop on Sunday, under current approval, AB 1-2029 was Sunday at 9 p.m. On the mitigated conditions, AB 1-2120, now it's 11 p.m. plus 2. So if you count just what's on page 4, there's a plus 5 hours difference in the work week on the types of conditions that were changed. Am I correct?
I'm not sure I 100% follow, but let me explain. I'm looking at slide 8 of the presentation. Is that what you were looking at?
No, ma'am, I'm looking at condition 4, number 4, on this modification right here.
Okay. So I'm now looking at that slide with you. So there were 2 things changed between the current approval and the mediated conditions. The first one is Sunday we brought up to the same as Monday through Thursday. So whatever the hours were on Monday through Thursday, Sunday became that same hour. But then with the rooftop hours, we made it the same as the interior hours. So it did go forward by 1 hour because the approval that's currently in place required rooftop operations to cease 1 hour before the closing of the interior of the establishment. What we had proposed at mediation is to bring that to the same as the interior hours of the operation so that the rooftop did not close 1 hour earlier. So that did result, with respect to looking at Sundays specifically, that did result in a more than 1 hour increase because, at least with respect to the rooftop, because we pushed it forward an hour and then made it the same as
Maybe
Monday.
I do math different than you do. But what I see on one side and what I read on the other side, it's 5 hours.
I don't see how there are 5 hours difference. The biggest difference is from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Well, let's go back. Let's do it one step at a time, so maybe I can correct myself.
Okay.
On the interior side, all the way to the left-hand column.
Yes.
And you have the line, then you have current approved. AB 1-2029, Monday through Thursday, 11 p.m. Am I correct? Do you see that?
That is correct, and that is not being proposed to change.
Mediated conditions. What does it say there?
Mediated conditions, Monday through Thursday, 11 p.m.
Isn't that an hour difference?
Between 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. and 11 p.m.? Didn't you just say Monday through Thursday, 11 p.m.?
Well, when you get down to Sunday, when I get there, that's why I'm saying the same 11 for Thursday, and it's the same for Friday and Saturday.
Right.
12 p.m. And I agree with that, 12 a.m., 11, that's there. But when you get to Sunday, it's under the current approval, AB 1-2029, on that item, it says Sunday, 10 p.m. When you get to the mediated condition, it says Sunday, 1 hour more, 11 p.m.
That is correct, and that is I explained that there were 2 things that changed. The first thing that changed is we brought Sunday forward to be the same as Monday through Thursday.
But that doesn't mean you can bring Monday to forward.
So
It
we
does
made
make
it this
a change,
week.
because there's 2 different. You got indoor and you got rooftop. Am I correct? Or it's
That's
always-
correct.
All right, but it changed, didn't it?
Yes, we proposed the mediation conditions that are before you today changed Sunday 10 p.m. to Sunday 11 p.m.
Because I'm going to fire my eye doctor because I'm seeing wrong.
But you are correct. That is a mediated condition change.
So there's 5 hours total. Am I correct or not?
5 hours.
Between between Monday and Thursday, Friday and Saturday and Sunday versus Monday and Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And the rooftop between Monday and Thursday is 1. Friday and Saturday, 11 to 12 is 1. And Sunday to 9 to 11 is 2. So if I add that, it's 5.
So I think you are correct. I see how you're doing the math now. I thought it was a 5-hour difference as opposed to
I'm in
5
total, yes, ma'am.
changes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry if I led you in the wrong direction.
Yes, I agree with that.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I would prefer to have the modification include no amplified sound outside. On the rooftop. Based on what I'm hearing from the neighbors and about a restaurant before being able to work in that space for years to not have that amplified sound. Is that something that your client could do? If you're really having just a restaurant, then it seems that no amplified sound, maybe I'm old, but I really love places I can go where there is no noise because I'd love to hear people I'm with speak. The emails that you gave us said that this concept was going to be high-end American. To me, that generally means a quieter setting to enjoy, high-end food and drink and just a little, not incredibly loud. Maybe I'm wrong in my interpretation of high-end dining. I don't eat out much, but could you speak to that possibility?
Councilwoman Jake Kramer, for the record. Our client couldn't be here physically today because of some health issues. I think I can reach him by phone. If there's any other conditions that are troubling you all, if we could talk about them with Jesse, and I'll step out in the hallway and see if I can get a hold of him on that specific issue, because I realize the importance.
Thank you, because that's just one that I see that the residents and the client could come together, because that's something that someone mentioned. Every single neighbor mentioned that.
Two things. I want to make sure that the city council attorney approves that. I've never had one done yet that way. I don't know about people.
And I was.
We don't see it. Sometimes you don't see someone here in person. They don't let them. They don't take the.
To that point.
I'm not trying to sidewind you or anything. I'm just saying that I've never seen it. And when you have someone here that wants to speak, whether it's from the audience or somebody at the home that wants to, if we don't see them personally, we don't let them speak.
If I may, I'm going to call my client.
I understand.
And propose this to see if I can, to see if we can work this out today.
The thing that's calling me the most,
yes,
throat, is the rooftop music.
Okay.
It's fine. There's many restaurants in Tampa that have that without music, and they're doing fine. However, what we're doing here is the old saying of putting the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse backwards. And we're trying to find something that we can put a client in without having the client. That's the problem.
And I apologize for that, Councilman.
There
were health issues.
Your case came to you. You didn't go force before you say I won.
Right.
I understand all that. Believe me, I do, and I know you got a tough job. There's no question about that. But the rooftop alcohol is what just is in my mind what I'm trying to do or not to do with this hearing.
If I may clarify, so you said rooftop, you said noise just a moment ago, and then rooftop.
Alcohol is what bothers me.
On the roof.
On the rooftop, yes, sir.
As it had been, that concerns you, even though the fly bar had that for many, many years.
I'm saying what I see here.
Yes,
you know, society is changing so much.
Yes, sir.
That they don't need council members anymore because everything is taken away from the power. You can't legislate anything over 4 apartments. You can't go if the state wants to do it. Yet they don't inspect. Now they want to say we're going to inspect after they had the catastrophe down in South Florida. Now they're going to inspect. Good for them. Now we used to do the 5149 ourselves. Guess what? Legislature said, oh, you boys are too small. You young ladies and men that work there, we can take care of ourselves. I'm not blaming them for what's happened in life, but they can't blame us.
Yes, sir.
They can't do it. So these are the things that are happening in government and all over the country. And it's getting to the point that there's no answer because there's no law given to some authorities to do what they have to do. But I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm just telling you how frustrated I feel about some of the things that are happening in this country. And you're not going to solve these problems, but the same old, it doesn't work.
May I ask a question, please? What's the capacity of the rooftop?
It is 116 persons.
160.
16.
116. Thank you very much.
116.
116 people. And if there's amplified music, so you're amplifying 116 people's voices by even more music. No offense to that, but it seems like double amplification. And I'll leave it there.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Carlson.
if Mr. Kramer is still, did he step out already?
He has stepped out.
He has stepped out, but I can communicate with him if you have an additional
I think
condition.
just, if we reject this tonight, then you all go to magistrate, as you said, and then you'll come back in a couple months or whatever, and you'll have whatever the next deal is. If there's anything else that you all listen to that you want to ask the owner to try to throw in now instead of waiting a couple months, for the sake of the good people in the audience, if there's anything else that you all, had in your hip pocket to throw out tonight, now would be a good time to do that.
Okay, and we would like to, like you get this done tonight. And we have, if you have any other heartburn over any other conditions, we'd like to hear it, and I can step out and try to.
But just listening to, I'm not mentioning anything specific, but just from what you and Mr. Kramer heard from the audience, if there's anything else that you all have been considering, or you thinking about adding in the next round, maybe ask the owner and throw it in now.
I mean, from what I heard from the neighbors, there were three main concerns. One was the cover charge, and I believe we've satisfied their concern with our proposed modification already with that. The second concern is the noise on the rooftop, which I believe is their biggest concern. We are going to see if we can do away with noise on the rooftop now. The third concern I heard was hours of operation. From some of the neighbors, not all of the people who spoke today, I believe hours of operation was concerning. I believe that they had proposed midnight, or believe midnight is too late to close on the weekends because that could lead to rowdy crowds. We can take a look at hours of operation. If I may, one moment. All right, so we have spoken with our client. We are amenable to striking the outdoor amplified sound condition. So that would be condition number 5.
Well, I don't think it needs to be struck, I just think it needs
I
to be modified.
apologize. Of course, not stricken. We would revert the condition number 5 to the original condition that is in the current permit, which would read, there shall be no live music or amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop space. Video equipment may be operated on the rooftop provided said equipment is completely muted. So we will agree to that modified condition. And I also was told that is the extent we can go at this time.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Sorry, I think it was Councilman Citro or somebody, I can't remember whom, maybe it was Ms. Hurtak, talked about the outdoor sound downstairs too. were you able to get that included then? I know you were penciling it in.
Yes, we can go ahead and revise that condition to, there shall be no live music or amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop space or outdoor area.
Thank you.
And video equipment may be operated on the rooftop or outdoor area, provided it is completely muted.
Thank you.
I believe Councilman Miranda had a question about the hours of operation, but Councilwoman Hurtak.
I also have a question about the hours of
That's what I
operation. So, and again, I guess I just don't go out enough, but Monday through Thursday, 11 p.m., does that mean like doors close, you take the last patron at p.m., 11 p.m., or does that mean like the last person can come in and grab something to eat around 10:30 because your kitchen closes at 11? Or, I mean, like, how does that work?
So it is my understanding is the way we have interpreted this and staff has interpreted this is that is when the doors close and the kitchen shuts, but also they stop taking patrons around 10:30 so that by 11 they can usher people out.
Okay, so 11 p.m. means everybody's gone.
Right.
So if you happen to wander in at 10:30, they say, oh, we're closing at 11, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Councilman Goose.
That was my question when you say high end, because most high end restaurants end at about 10 o'clock.
We have actually looked at a variety of restaurants in the Tampa area, and 11 p.m. or midnight is pretty standard. I think that there are times when you don't go out to dinner until 8:39 for a variety of reasons. For example, after a council meeting, after a graduation, or after a sporting event. So there are instances where there are late diners, and of course there are those diners who just linger. And so we believe that 11 p.m. midnight is appropriate. And again, that's not the rooftop. The rooftop on weekends closes at 11 p.m. Is that right? Sorry, I'm wrong. Closes at midnight. So we have 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and midnight Fridays and Saturdays for both the rooftop and the interior.
I'm just curious what kind of restaurant that would be. I'm a single guy, so I eat out all the time. So I'm just curious what restaurants, per restaurant. You're saying a restaurant
This is a restaurant.
at 11 or 12 o'clock. I don't know what you're serving, but I know what normally is served around about that time.
And I do want to point out, your code provides that restaurants and bars can be open until 3 a.m.
I'm familiar with what the code says about bars, but what you're saying is you're trying to give conditions and modifications. You're asking for these different things, so we're asking you questions of what you presented to us. But I understand what the code is. We do this every week in reference to AB usage of alcohol when it relates to bars and. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Miranda.
Sorry, go ahead.
So let me just say this, as long as all the alcohol beverage runs with the land, you're never gonna solve these problems, none of them, because they got you by the throat. I ain't talking about you good people, not at all, I'm just taking in general form. As long as the alcohol beverage runs with the land, you can't do a darn thing, and I said darn thing instead of the other word, because that's the way the state wrote it. It doesn't do on what you do ability. You can't control anything that you do. Once they get that liquor license, it's very hard to take it away. And even if you take it away, the land is still zoned for alcohol. Am I correct?
Well, any alcohol service requires a special use permit, so if
I'm
it
not
is.
talking about your client. I'm talking in general terms about straight liquor. It stays with the land.
Yes, if you issue the special use permit, it will run
I
with the
think
land.
in this form, unless it's changed, you you can't be closed for so many period of time. Now, you use your license if you don't make a sale or something.
That's correct. Your code provides that
Right.
sales must be made at least once every 60 days.
I knew I got bald for a reason.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up, if you could question for staff, but you raised the issue of alcohol on the roof, and just a reminder, and we talked about this just as you did, there are entitlements that are already existing on that property, and Mr. Cotton would be able to address those for council.
Eric Cotton Development, excuse me, Eric Cotton Development Coordination. The location already is wet. They did receive an AB1 prior to this current AB1, which had restrictions on it. The rooftop is already wet. They do have an AB1 for beer, wine, and liquor, same as what they're requesting under this current AB1. I do want to clarify some things. As a special restaurant, they can stay open in this CBD till 3 o'clock per the code. Regardless of, I mean, council can put conditions on that, and staff can put conditions on it, but by code, they can stay open until 3 a.m. Security is only required downtown for a bar, not for a special restaurant. So they do not have to have security because it's not a requirement of code.
In fact, when you realize it, excuse me, I'm not trying to take over.
Councilman Miranda.
There's only 4 hours in the day you cannot serve liquor.
3 to 7.
By the law, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's it. You can serve liquor 20 hours a day. That's all. You can't even get gas 20 hours a day. You can't even go to the grocery store 20 hours a day. But you can get liquor.
Anyone else? I'm going to go back to the question I asked earlier. The capacity of 116 people on the rooftop. If you're serving until midnight, if you're serving food until midnight, that is going to also be a loud noise. Is there any way we can reduce the hours rooftop, even for restaurant?
Councilman, could you be more specific?
9 o'clock.
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. We have.
I just asked a question, counsel. Thank you. I got the answer.
Move to close?
I'd rather keep it open just a little longer. I don't want to have to reopen. Councilman Vieira.
And Councilman Carlson wanted to go. He's been asking. If I may, he can go before.
Go ahead, Mr. Vieira. Councilman Vieira, go ahead.
You sure? Okay. Just really fast, if I may, when you Mr. Chairman, had asked 9, that was flatly rejected by Mr. Kramer. Is there any other cutoff time that your client would be amenable to that you're aware of at this time, or is?
I'm just asking for the rooftop. Thank you, Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow the discussion there.
The chairman had asked for, I think it was a 9 o'clock cutoff time for the rooftop, and you had flatly said no to that. Is there any reduction in the present open time as proposed that you would be amenable to? Maybe not 9 o'clock, but something other than that? Or is any change or modification something that your client would reject?
And Councilman Vieira, your question is for the rooftop only.
Just out of curiosity.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yes, sir.
So this is what I had looked at, is basically reducing it right now from the interior. This brings us basically the same as what we already have, except don't get it out on Sunday. That's a little change. Can we live with that, do you think?
I think we can hear everything you guys are saying in case you're trying to be quiet.
Okay. So, here's what I suggest to address the hours of operation. So looking at condition number 4, what we can look to is reducing the hours on the rooftop to 1 hour earlier than the interior hours. So So what that means is interior, it would close 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and midnight Friday and Saturday. Then the rooftop, we would have close 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, it was mentioned several times that this would be an upscale restaurant, and I think legal would tell us that that's not a requirement that we can put in. They can cut me off if I'm wrong. But the other thing I was wondering if Mr. Cotton or someone could explain how what is being proposed now compares to what Fly Bar was like. I don't want to introduce any testimony, but I used to go to Fly Bar, so I'm wondering what the difference is.
Mr., if I can, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. What you have now are existing entitlements that have been granted with this special use. And I believe that is what's relevant in this case, not the Fly Bar, what used to be.
Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. I can't really comment on the Fly Bar because I don't recall what that was approved for. I do know that was approved previously. That was an old wet zoning for the Fly Bar. That was before the code changed and we went to the special use criteria, which allowed council to look at parking and other issues. The old wet zonings were just a site. Council would look at a survey, they would make a decision, basically no conditions, because that's the way the system worked at the time. The update in 2009 changed it to a special use. Right now, on the property, they have an approval that was done for a small venue, beer, wine, and liquor, under AB 120-29, that had a little bit more restrictive hours than what's being proposed now, which I believe was in the PowerPoint that was provided by Stearns Weaver. But if you want, I can review those again, but, yes, sir?
No, that's okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, what other questions while I'm up?
Any other questions for staff?
Okay, thank you.
Council members.
Word from Ms. Iserman.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I believe these conditions are as far as we can go. And the hearing, if we proceeded to a Fludra hearing, I believe we would prevail. And if you again shot down that recommendation from the special magistrate, we have a very great legal case. As Ms. Susan Johnson-Velez has pointed out, this is a settlement negotiation, not a quasi-judicial hearing. So another thing, not only do you take into account the conditions in your code, which we vehemently believe we meet and exceed the conditions in your code, but you need to take into consideration the future litigation aspect. So I believe we have addressed the cover charge and met that. We have addressed hours of operation to the greatest extent we possibly can, and we've removed noise on the rooftop, which we have heard repeatedly is the biggest concern today. So with that, we would appreciate an approval of the mediated conditions as modified today.
At this point, before I take a motion to close, I normally ask for any discussions after the motion has been made. Is there any further discussion, any further questions, any further requests before we close so we don't have to reopen? Councilman Vieira.
Just a statement, on something that was said. I mean, well, for 5-6 months I've been a mediator, gotten to mediate probably like 20 cases, 15 cases, which is kind of fun. But I've done tons of mediations as a private attorney, and this is kind of a case that you get after like a 7-hour mediation where, both parties come in wanting a home run and they're kind of settling for a double or something. I think there's been a lot of movement, and that's just acknowledged by me for whatever that's worth.
Councilman Miranda.
No, I think the counselor for the petitioner, Eichmann, said it all at the end. That's as far as they're gonna go.
Councilman Goods?
I'm good.
Councilwoman Hurtak?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. We are going to no amplified sound and closing the rooftop Sunday to Thursday at 10 p.m., Friday to Saturday at 11 p.m.
That is correct.
Just
And
wanted
the
to check.
amplified music is exterior.
I'm sorry. It is no amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop or outdoors.
Correct.
Ms. Velez?
Susan Johnson, Velez Legal Department. I've been keeping notes here, and I just thought it would be helpful to read through all of the modifications that council is requesting, and then have the owner confirm their, consent to those modifications, so that we're all on the same page. So, based on my notes, I've got a modification to condition 4B, that reads, rooftop of the establishment shall be required to close at 10 p.m. on Sunday, 10 p.m. on Monday through Thursday, and 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Then condition number 5, the requested modification was so that the condition would read, there shall be no live music or amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop space or outside, period. Video equipment may be operated on the rooftop or outdoor area, provided that volume on said equipment is completely muted. Then condition number 9, the removal of the second sentence. And so that the condition would read, the establishment is prohibited from any use or implementation of a cover charge or any admission fee at any time for regular patronage or special events. And those are all the changes that I have. Are those
the best?
conditions? Okay.
We confirm and agree those are the.
Councilman Carlson?
Yeah, Ms. Johnson Velez, to make sure I heard it, you were able to include that it's no outdoor amplified sound on the rooftop and outside, right? So meaning
Correct.
downstairs.
The condition number 5 would read, there shall be no live music or amplified sound of any sort on the rooftop space or outside, period. That's the first sentence. Then video equipment may be operated on the rooftop or outdoor area, provided that volume on said equipment is completely muted.
Yeah, and just, I have a question in just a second for you, but just for the statement, similar to what others said, I appreciate the public giving feedback. I appreciate the owner's representatives negotiating on the spot. Ms. Johnson Velez, if we reject this, and let's say it goes through litigation and they prevail, we could end up with a much worse situation than this. Am I correct? Or what kind of condition could they end up with if it ended up in a lawsuit? Set aside the expense of a lawsuit, but could they end up with without these restrictions?
Well, they have a current, there are current entitlements on the property, as I believe Mr. Cotton has confirmed and Mr. Shelby has discussed. They have an existing AB1 permit 20-29 that has conditions on it already, and so those conditions would remain. I mean, we've talked about how they run with the land, so that's what they've got to operate under now. And if council chooses to approve this ordinance, it would, essentially rescind that approval and impose these conditions on the property. So, a court typically wouldn't change conditions of approval, but, I don't know what they would include in any potential lawsuit, but council should consider that. I mean, I think that's been mentioned here as a possible avenue if this settlement is not,
It could end up with, one possible result is that we could end up with what they proposed originally, correct?
No, if this isn't approved, then the existing special use permit would remain on the property.
Jake, did you want to say something?
Yes, Councilman, if we were to have to proceed to litigation, our request to the court would be to ask for the court to approve what we had proposed originally in the hearing in October.
Is that all, Councilman Carlson? Is that all?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Miranda.
I'm not a judge and I'm certainly not an attorney, but there's not even a client here for this building. So you're going to approve something without a client, so you can go out and find somebody that wants what you just got for them without them being here. It's like having a baby.
It's not, I mean, it's not an uncommon
I
occurrence.
understand, but I'm just
Okay.
saying, you know.
Whoever does come in and occupy this space would be bound by these conditions, though.
And Mr. Chairman and council, it's also the property owner that has the property rights.
I understand that also.
Council members, before we close, any other comments or questions? Any other recommendations?
I have a motion to close. Second.
Motion to close by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
What's the pleasure of council?
Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. I just want to remind council, your three options are to accept, well, now you've modified and the owner has agreed to your requested modification. So you would now, you know, if that's what you would like to modify, and then you would proceed to implement by having first reading of the ordinance.
I don't know if this is proper, but procedurally, I mean, I would move for approval of the final proposal by the applicant. I don't know if that means that I read the ordinance or.
Actually,
Well, okay.
no, go ahead. Well, I was going to, go ahead.
To maybe suggest that an appropriate motion would be to accept the recommendation of the special magistrate with conditions as modified this evening and as agreed to by the owner.
So I hereby move, and thank you for that, ma'am, to accept the proposal from the magistrate with the modifications that have been stipulated to by the applicant.
Second.
There has been a motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Carlson. Roll call vote.
Do you want to have discussion? Is there any opportunity for discussion on the motion or no, sir?
I had asked several times before we closed.
But now there's a motion on the floor.
Any discussion to the motion?
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
No.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goose, Miranda,
No.
Herzog,
Yes.
and Citro.
No.
Motion failed with Maniscalco, Goose, Miranda, and Citro voting no.
Ms. Johnson Velez.
Thank you. Are we going for information and reports? I'll go to Councilman Carlson.
I don't have any, thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes, just really fast, if I was going to give American Legion Post 5 a city council commendation for their work on Memorial Day, to be given on Memorial Day.
Have a motion
I don't know if
made
this one
by-
will pass. I'm joking.
As we're exiting, can we do that quietly, please? And thank you. Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And if I may, I also move Mr. Lessam Ramos, who is a very fine gentleman, was the head of the Terrace Park Civic Association for a number of years. I wanted to give him a commendation for his work over on Bush Boulevard.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye. That's it. Thank you, everyone.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to present a commendation at the regular session meeting on June 2nd to the LGBTQ community, recognizing June as Pride Month.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Vieira. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
What's the problem?
You good?
Yeah,
No, I have a question.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilman
Mr. Chair.
Herzog.
No. Mr. Chairman, members of council, Ms. Iserman is here. With regard to the motion, I saw people leaving, and unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, the motion failed. Is that correct? In order for you to take action, it requires an affirmative vote of four council members. Therefore, another motion in this case would be in order, in my opinion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Then I make a motion to deny the report and recommend. I make a motion to deny the report and recommendation of the special magistrate.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
No.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
No.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda, and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson and Vieira voting no.
Councilwoman Hartock.
In light of the recent events in Buffalo and Uvalde, I think it is urgent that we address ways to increase gun safety. Unfortunately, and against the backdrop of increasing gun violence in Florida across the country, Governor DeSantis has continued to promise Floridians that before he leaves office, he will remove the requirement that residents who wish to carry a firearm in public prove competency in the safe handling of firearms. I would like to make a motion asking Chair to send a letter to Governor DeSantis on behalf of City Council urging the governor to revoke his promise to allow permitless carry in the state of Florida.
I'll second if I may, and may I make a comment on that? If you're finished. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm glad you're doing that, Councilwoman. Thank you so much for that. It is, take away the recent tragedies that we have seen, for that to come to Florida is obscene. You know, you don't, the Second Amendment exists. I support people's right to bear arms. I do. And people bear arms to protect themselves, for family traditions, for hunting, for a whole series of things. But to begin this idea that we can, carry around rifles and even semi-automatic weapons, et cetera, in public, to me is just obscene in Florida. This is not the Florida that I know. And I don't believe that the vast majority, including many Republicans, would support this policy. So thank you for that.
Can you please repeat that? What was it in the latter part?
I would like to make a motion asking the chair to send a letter to Governor DeSantis on behalf of City Council, urging the governor to revoke his promise to allow permitless carry in the state of Florida.
Open carry.
Open carry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what yes.
Yeah,
Open
open carry. I will amend that.
Ms. Hertog, if I may, I am a concealed weapons permit holder, but these type of things that we've been seeing over and over again lately, people say it should never happen again until it happens again. I would also like to add, with your permission, that the governor take a look at loopholes such as gun shows, where people could just walk in and buy a gun and walk out, through newspaper sales, where they could just buy without any background checks and extended background checks. But if you don't want to go that far, I understand, and I would just stay with your letter.
I guess it's the pleasure of council, but I would really like to focus on the one thing that he has promised.
You got it.
That I believe that citizens are asking us to do something, and unfortunately in Florida we don't have a lot of power, but what we can do is ask him to revoke the promise he has made in order to protect the citizenry.
Thank you. The motion's been made by Councilwoman Hertog, seconded by Councilman Vieira. All in favor? I'm sorry, Councilman Carlson? Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I want to talk about something else in a minute when you get a chance.
Are we doing this in roll call? Roll call vote, please.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Viera. Miranda. Goods. And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Do you have anything else, Councilman Perkins? Councilman Goods? Councilman Miranda? No. Councilman Carlson?
Yeah, I apologize. I forgot I have recusal forms from last week. I don't have them in front of me, but I think Marty has them. If I could please make a motion to receive and file.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Thank you.
That was for votes on May 19th, file number F2274638, file number PRC 2274579, and VAC 22-15. Thank you.
Motion has been made to receive and file by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Without objection, we are adjourned.